good lunch. Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. Merry Christmas to all. I'd like to take up item number PI1. Commissioner Carollo, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chairman Russell. If I may, let me get the English version of the resolution. This is a resolution in a day that's a very special day, a very significant day. Today is the International Day of Human Rights that was established back in 1947-48, and at a time in particular where young men and women inside Cuba, where so many residents like myself are of Cuban descent, were born in Cuba like myself, that live in our city. These young men and women have shown the courage of true patriots in confronting one of the worst dictatorial, criminal, murdering regimes that the world has ever seen. Many of them have been thrown in jail already. Some are probably being tortured. And while we're certainly not there being able to support them, the least that we could do is show support for them from the city that has been the torch of guidance, of openness, the city hall that has always opened its doors to refugees from not only communist regimes, but from regimes of dictators of all kinds. Since 1959, 61 years ago, we have had hundreds and hundreds of Cubans that have fled communism in Cuba and are still fleeing. Thousands have died in the Florida Straits trying to win freedom, not to mention the thousands that have been murdered in firing squads and in jails. 20 years later, in 1979, thousands of Nicaraguans started coming to our city. And then 20 years after that, in 1999 beginning, we have had tens of thousands of Venezuelans that have fled another brutal communist regime. And in between, in all these years, we have had tens of thousands of refugees from other communist countries, whether Eastern Europe, Russia, China, other parts of Latin America, and the world. And this city hall has been the one city hall above any other in America that has had its doors not only open, but has always stood shoulder to shoulder in combating these communist dictatorial regimes. So today, I would like to introduce and read the resolution that I have before us. This is a resolution declaring that today, December the 10th, 2020, in the city of Miami, we are all San Isidro. Todos somos San Isidro. Whereas the San Isidro movement has been one of the largest protests of the last 60 years in a genuine demand for freedom and the search for a path of democracy in Cuba. Whereas the San Isidro movement has been a peaceful movement made up of members of the independent artists, journalists, academics, intellectuals, and others, organized to oppose repression, and the limited freedom of expression that exists in Cuba. And consequently, they are being defamed in the official media and suffering acts of repudiation in their own homes without the right to defend themselves. Whereas the San Isidro movement also seeks respect for the human rights of the voices of dissidents in Cuba. Whereas the San Isidro movement has been publicly supported by important and recognized activists of the Cuban dissidents, among which are José Daniel Ferrer and Las Damas de Blanco, among others. Whereas the Inter-American Court of Human Rights rejected the eruption in the headquarters of the movement, describing said procedure and subsequent arrest as arbitrary, and urged the Cuban government to comply with its commitments and obligations in relation to the granting of essential guarantees and with the respect of human rights and due process in judicial matters. Whereas the President of the European Parliament Subcommittee of Human Rights, Marie Arena, expressed her deep concern about the situation of the protesters. Whereas the Secretary of State of the United States, Mike Pompeo, declared his support for the San Isidro movement, in addition to the urging to the Cuban government to stop the harassment of the group, in addition to requesting the release of Dennis Solis. Now, therefore, the City of Miami declares today, December the 10th, 2020, that in Miami, we are all San Isidro. La ciudad de Miami declara hoy, Diciembre 10, 2020, que en Miami todos somos San Isidro. I hereby make the motion for this commission to approve this resolution.
There's been a motion, second by Commissioner Reyes. I'd like to open up the commission for comment.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Carollo. This is once again, a signal that we in the city of Miami, we are in total support to anybody that is fighting communism, anybody that stand up to that terrible philosophy, as I said before, that is based on hate, envy, and stands by terror. And that whenever our people in Cuba, those real courageous people in the island, that they are the ones that they have the courage to stand up and demand their rights, that any time that happens, we in Miami and wherever there is a Cuban, we will be supporting it. And that's why wholeheartedly I support, and my colleagues support this resolution. And I'm proud to join Commissioner Carollo in supporting this resolution and send a message to that dictatorship that we are also San Isidro, and we will be also standing up to their lack of freedom and the persecution of our people in the island. We haven't forgotten our people, and we will never forget our people. Never.
Thank you. Any further comment from the dais? All in favor of the item say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes, noted with unanimous co-sponsorship. Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner Carrillo. I'd like to recognize County Commissioner Raquel Regalado, who's with us today. If you'd like to address this body, you are more than welcome.
You know, la conocía.
There we go. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. So first and foremost, like I promised when I was campaigning and like I did when I was on the school board, I'm here to take all your questions and to talk about what's going on at the County Commission. I'm going to assume that we're going to start with CARES Act funding, which is something you're going to be talking about later on. So I'm happy to discuss the resolution and then also what's happening in terms of our use of the funding and the last information that we received from Ed Marquez last week.
Yeah, but you are bringing us a check, right?
If only it was that easy, right?
At least give a promise.
Well, I'll explain what happened at our last meeting. So at our last meeting, Commissioner Hardiman brought an item on the dais. And I think we've already provided you with the actual reso, which was given to us yesterday. And I amended that resolution and really wanted to talk about what I feel should be a priority and why that's in this resolution. But the idea was that the original county commission had established two buckets of CARES Act funding. One was the 25 million and the other was the 75. The 75 was the FEMA match. And what we were discussing at our county commission meeting was that the county has given funding to nonprofits. Once and twice in this case, we actually provided a nonprofit with some funding at this meeting. And that why is it that the nonprofits were having a better opportunity to use fundings in the cities and the county were not having success in terms of their programming and in accessing funding. So the good news is it's not a check, but at least it's not a reimbursement. The way that this reso impacts it's in that FEMA bucket is that you as a city are now allowed to apply using the same vehicles that nonprofits were using. So it's not a straight reimbursement as it was before. And obviously this requires a change in your MOU with the county, right? I know, but hopefully it's not too painful. We also extended the time. You have until the end of the month to use this funding. So it's a little bit better than December 15th. We're actually going to be meeting on December 15th. So if you have any issues in terms of your MOU, if you have any questions, that would be the appropriate time. If you need me to bring it up, obviously you have several county commissioners that represent the city of Miami, but I'm happy to. If the manager wants to speak or Casamayor to Ed Marquez, we're happy to set that up also. I know some of my other cities are already negotiating changes to their MOU. And that gets us to the priorities and a little of explanation of what's going on with the CARES Act funding. So the way that the county commission set up the funding paradigm for the CARES Act is that whatever is unused would go to pay for what the county has overspent in operations. So that's why when you look at the accounting that was provided to us, you see a deficit of $36,538,681. That's because there's been certain areas, for example, testing, where the county has overspent more than it's allotted. And that's why when this came up at the county commission, one of my fellow commissioners said, well, if we make it easier for the municipalities to use this funding, this means that the county will have to come out of pocket for its overspending on the CARES Act. That is actually true. But we're working on that, and the majority of the county commission felt that we can figure that out on our end, and we wanted to make sure that the cities had access to the funding, and this wasn't just about making the situation more complicated and then drawing down. So we're currently working on going back to our budget and on reducing costs so that we can balance our books and get over this hurdle. So that being said, we really want you to use the money. My personal preference and the amendment that Commissioner Hardiman accepted on what I'm here to talk to you about in part is that you consider prioritizing rental assistance and eviction prevention. So many of you remember I spent 18 months on the Value Adjustment Board when I was a school board member. I spoke a lot at our last meeting about my concerns in terms of property valuation. I think we should all be concerned. You know, we can all have different ideas as to the best use of the CARES Act funding, but I think at this point, we really have to have a conversation about the evictions cliff, about how many people are in the evictions process. Right now, what we have is the CDC order that expires on December 31st. We have great organizations like the Homeless Trust and Camilla's House helping to place people, but unfortunately, the eviction moratorium as established by the county, which only means that the county mayor as the sheriff is not effectuating the writs of possession, will lead us to a point where we will have to effectuate all these writs. When that happens, people will be homeless. So once upon a time, the governor said that judicial actions were not going to move forward. That only lasted a few months. The executive order from the governor stopping the final judgment, that ended in August, which is why all we have now is the CDC and this moratorium. And the concern is twofold. Number one, that in a time where people should be staying at home and staying safe, we're going to put them out on the street. And number two, that the owners of those properties are then going to go to the property appraisal and dramatically reduce the value of that commercial property because of the reduction in revenue. One of the things that's important to keep in mind is that while residential properties establish value by market rate, commercial properties establish value by revenue and expenses. So if you have a commercial property that has not received revenue, rent, for example, for 7 to 8 months, we're going to see a dramatic change in this fiscal year. That's not forever, but that's this next fiscal year, and that's the concern. So that's why I think that at this point, we really need to focus on eviction prevention and rent abatement. At the county, what we have done is we've raised the cap for our landlord program. At first, as originally established, our landlord program was only applicable for people who own 10 or less units. We've actually dramatically raised that cap. I know that you all are going to be talking about rental assistance in the future in this meeting, and I know that it's complicated because of the paperwork and walking people through this and getting them to understand that this is important. But I hope that you will do that and you'll prioritize that as much as possible. So happy to take any of your questions on the reso or on what's happening at the county in terms of the CARES Act funding.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Diaz-del-Portillo, you're
Thank you,
recognized.
Mr. Chairman. Congratulations on your victory.
Thank you.
You talked about this, putting aside the $25 million allocation, you had a $75 million allocation with Commissioner Hardeman's amendment, I believe, right? Is that for all cities, all municipalities?
This is right. This is for all municipalities. All municipalities are going to
Yes,
be able to access the funding.
Correct, because you created a perception that it's for the city of Miami. So you're talking about all 34 municipalities. How much of that is for the city of Miami?
Well, right now, spent from the FEMA funds for the municipalities, I'll tell you right now. So the municipalities have in progress 58,620
No, of the 75 million.
of 75 million.
Of the 75 million, how much of that has been allocated?
So spent is 60,380,000.
16?
60,380,000 already spent.
Okay.
And then in progress, which means may apply or may not apply, about 50 million.
I'm not understanding. Just Miami's portion.
Oh, I don't have just Miami's portion.
Well, you're in Miami. You're not in the other 33 municipalities.
I'm also not Ed.
No, I know. But if you come here before this commission and you tell us that Commissioner Hardeman had an amendment or a resol that was worth $75 million, that's not accurate. $75 million for the entire.
For all the municipalities, right.
There's a big difference, but you're not addressing all municipalities.
Well, I said at the beginning that the prior county commission had established 75 million for FEMA match and 25 million for all municipalities.
Right,
It's a
correct.
$100 million bucket for all municipalities.
I know, but I would think that if you would come before the city of Miami, you would have an exact number of how much of that $75 million was to the city of Miami. Because we have people here in the press that may misinterpret and think that the $75 million the county is allocated is for our city. So it's better if you would say the exact amount of how much the Miami-Dade County government has allocated for reimbursable expenses to the city of Miami.
Respectfully, Commissioner, I think that's a question for your manager, who's the person who's submitting
He's not the one
that
that's
request to the
Commissioner-
county.
Commissioner, he's not the one that's making the presentation. You are. You're coming before us today talking about what you've done for us. I want you to tell you what you've done for us. Us is the city of Miami, not the 34 municipalities. But he's not here. He's got COVID-19. He's not making a presentation. You are. And you're telling me that you don't have the number of what you've done for the city you're testifying before today? You don't have the actual number of what the city of Miami, what you have with the Miami?
I did not bring the actual number
Okay,
for the city of Miami.
Then that's my question. Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Is it divided by population or by
Yes.
need? It is by population, so we should be able to extrapolate that.
Your county manager has been applying for this fund. He should tell you exactly how much the city has, A, received, and B, has in progress. I mean, I'm happy to have Ed send the actual City of Miami numbers. We can ask him for specific reports, and that's something that I'll be happy to send to the commission.
Commissioner,
Yes, you're
through
recognized.
through the chair, I think we're going to be very deferential to you, and congratulations, because you are new. But unfortunately, everybody up here is a little bit peeved about this. And so I'll apologize in advance if I come off wrong. This money was received by the county way back when, early in the year. Then we get it in November
I agree with you.
in order to spend it a certain way. And now you come and tell us how we should prioritize it, right? And so you should understand, if now there's a presentation to be made to us, at least we understand now what those amounts are, because that information goes out to the public, and it seems like we're holding on to money that we just got, okay? And now not able to spend to the betterment of our residents. So I know it's not our
Well,
problem.
Commissioner Watson, if you allow me to explain, I was actually critical of the allocation of the CARES Act funding by the county. I was not part of the commission who made that decision. I was one of the people that thought that they should have done a better job, not only of providing it to the municipalities, but even within the county programming, they were very late. This is a attempt to right some of that wrong by the current commission. Like I mentioned, we do it at our own detriment, and some of the county commissioners don't agree with what was passed this week. My point is to provide you with the information in a timely manner, and I'm happy to do that. I think on this count, we can both agree that the county could have done it better, and I hope that, you know, me being here is in part a move in the right direction in terms of having a better relationship with the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Reyes, then Commissioner Carollo.
Yeah, yes, as I understood, you said that it could be based on, it's going to be $25 million, it's going to be divided based on population?
This is the $75 million that was set aside for the
Yes,
FEMA
but
grant.
what is left, what is going to go to the...
Right. Yes.
To the municipalities? I
Yes.
mean, it's left, 25 million is left,
Right.
and it's going to be divided by population. Well, we can probably infer that being almost 18% of the population of the city of Miami, it will be about around $4.5 million. I wish I can see that or more. You see? That could be our...
It also depends on,
If it is going to be divided like that, and you don't have any other, I mean, you don't include other...
right. The other thing is who's going to apply. I mean, I can tell you that some of the smaller municipalities are not going to be applying for any more. We know that some of them had already moved some funding. So I think the larger municipalities are the ones that are going to be moving forward with programming at this point. Not every municipality is in a place.
What is the timeline for applying?
Until the end of the year. So December 31st is what we established.
And we should be applying, or we should have applied already, right?
Well, what the resolution does now is instead of as a reimbursement mechanism, it allows you to use the mechanism that was used for the nonprofits.
Okay.
So that's a little different in the sense that you provide the programming and the county will approve it and then provide the allocation.
Wait, we provide I mean, we incur the expenses and then we collect from you guys.
Well, that
You're
was-
going to reimburse, because I don't understand that.
Well, originally, it was exclusively on reimbursement, and one of the things that we talked about at the county commission meeting is that we believe that that was not equitable. Why is it that the municipalities had to spend and then get reimbursed, while the nonprofits simply applied and received the funding?
Absolutely.
So in this last phase of it, for what it's worth, we tried to rectify that, and what we established is that the municipalities can now use the same vehicles as the nonprofits have used to date.
Another question.
Sure.
It's before December 31st, which we should apply and spend the money, right?
Well, that's where it gets a little gray with the county. The county is saying that whoever, it's like a race to apply, so there isn't that much money left. There is the possibility that there may not be anything left beyond that point.
Okay, Mr. Casamayor, have we applied for that, those funds yet?
No, sir, we have not applied for any new funding that may be available from the county. We just got a copy of that resolution that
This just
passed,
came
so-
out, yeah. To his defense, it just came out, and now, the
Okay.
first step is amending the MOU.
Okay.
And I would recommend that you try to do that as soon as possible,
Yes.
and then seeing what's
Okay.
left.
Thank you, Raquel. Thank you very much.
My
Chairman,
pleasure.
you know that I have to be the toughest on you, right? Raquel, congratulations on your big win.
Thank you.
And second of all, thank you very much for being the only county commissioner that has been willing to come up here and talk to us and explain as best as you can what has happened before you got there. I truly appreciate that.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, just really quickly, so that you all know, because it does impact the city, right now, the county is working on releasing the report that has to do with Biscayne Bay. We're expecting that any day now. There's also a second report on septic to sewer. As some of you know, it's a big deal for me, so I hope to be back soon to talk to you about those two reports and next steps. I am bringing an item to the county commission that has to do with the inspection of the septic tanks. And then at the prior meeting of the county commission, we did approve an item that I'll also bring to you once we have a report, and that has to do with pandemic trash. It's about people throwing masks and gloves in the street, so we're going to come back with a report, and one of the things that we may be adding to our legislative agenda, and I'll end on that. The county will be working on its legislative agenda soon. I hope that we can work with the city and try as much as possible to speak with one voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And if I could, just one last question about the
Sure.
CARES funding. Yes, rental assistance, something we're working on, and that is very important that we need to prioritize. Are there limitations on the funds that are allotted to us at this
No,
point?
we didn't do that. We just established that it's a priority that we would like to see, but we wouldn't.
So from a
limit.
programmatic perspective, if we wanted to help businesses, if we wanted to help residents directly with food or whatever, it's an open spend for
Of course.
for COVID-related relief.
Of course.
Because one of the things we're taking up today is with regard to the curfew, and that's a big issue. And a lot of the talk has been, how do we mitigate the economic effect that we're causing, not on the nightclub owner per se, but on the worker, the one who cleans, the one who serves, those who will be put out of a job. And we want to see policies that prioritize health, but don't forget about the responsibilities we have on the tail end of that, the effects that we cause through those policies. Is this funding the type of funding we could use to help those people and businesses?
The requirement remains the same, that it needs to fall under FEMA-approved COVID programming, which it does. As long as you can find a nexus between the pandemic and, in this case, public health and safety, I don't think that you should have a problem. Other cities and other counties around the nation have actually used it for this type of programming. So you all decide what your priorities are. We just made a recommendation in terms of rent abatement and eviction protection, because we'll be back in June, right, to give you the property values. And I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
No, thank you very much. And thank you for coming.
Commissioner,
Commissioner, I have a-
You are both recognized.
go ahead, Commissioner.
I just have a quick question for you, Commissioner.
By all means.
Has the county done its legislative priority list already?
You broke up what?
Its legislative priority list?
We have not started our legislative priority process. We're going to start that in January.
Okay, and when will you have that ready?
Well,
What do you think?
there's new members of the commission, so we're hoping to do it a little bit sooner than historically the county has done it. We would also like to change the process, so we'll see. It's going to be on the agenda for January about making the process a little bit different and doing it a little bit sooner. The county historically has it done much later in the year, way too close to when the session starts.
Right, because on January 11th, session, committee week started in Tallahassee, as you know.
Yes.
So the process you're going to do, institute at the county, is a process where the county commissioners have more input into that agenda, right, that list.
Well, historically, the way that the county commission does it is that they have a list of priorities and they all list it, and then there's a tally. What we would like to see is something more comprehensive that includes a discussion and participation of stakeholders, and then also input on what the municipalities and other groups are doing so that we can align our legislative agenda.
Okay, can you get us a copy of that when you finish with that? to this
Of course,
commission? Okay,
as soon
thank
as
you.
it's ready,
Thank
happy
you,
to do
Commissioner.
so.
Thank you.
Commissioner Watson?
Commissioner, I just wanted to say, if I didn't, congratulations on your victory.
Thank
We
you.
have worked on things in the past. Your uncle worked for me, and I helped your dad in the past life, so
Yes.
no,
Well, congratulations to you too, Commissioner.
thank you. No animosity on my part. We just all have some angst over this program, and you weren't there before, and so I just want to make sure that my comments were not directed at you.
Well, we're hoping that we can mend those relationships. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We are going to move on to item RE3, which is, I believe, Commissioner Diaz de la Portilla's resolution amending the Coronavirus Relief Fund program.
Okay, what RE3 does is that it lowers the amount, and I think Commissioner Carollo has left the dais, but he may have a suggestion. I was told by the city attorney that he may have a suggestion as an amendment. But what we do here is we lower the amount to $100. Right now it's at $250. We lower the amount to $100, and the idea behind that is that more people would benefit from the program. So we need to pass this today. I think with the commission's blessing, we can begin to distribute those cards. We have, as you know, Commissioner, Chairman, we have until December 31st to distribute all those cards. We have a tremendous need. I found a tremendous need in talking to people and having teams out there, as we all have, for these cards. I thought that it would be better that we can distribute it to more people. The second thing it does is that it allows the cards, these are now cash gift cards. They can be used at any supermarket, any mini market. They can be used at any pharmacy. There's also a code, the cards are coded, so it allows usage for food, for medicine, and I have an amendment that will now also allow for utilities to be used for utility payments. So it's a cash card that can be used at not only at Publix, but it can be used at Fresco y Más, Sedanos, Presidente, or any place of the customer's choosing, and they have more flexibility to go to the places they're used to shopping at and to fill the needs that they really have. A lot of older people in a lot of our districts really have more need for medicine than they do for food, because they have food supplements and they have food stamps and things of that nature. So it's important that we make the program more inclusive, and that's what RE3 does.
Thank you. I'll take that as a motion.
Yes, sir.
So
Is there a-
moved.
I so move.
Seconded by Commissioner Watson.
Hold on, yes, but I want to ask a couple of questions. I do not disagree with you, Commissioner, at all, but I have concerns. One of my main concerns is logistic. You see, how are we going to purchase the cards? I mean, how are we? Let's say that I want to provide some people with $100. You see, it's going to be almost a cash card, right?
Yes, sir.
$100. But then you will have to add all the people that needs a $100 card, identify them, and then come to the administrator said, I want you to purchase these cards because we don't have the flexibility of buying it ourselves. You know what I mean?
No, the administration buys the cards. We do
That's right, but what I'm saying is that it has to go through a process of identifying, coming to them.
Yes.
And I want to hear from the administration how they're going to do it. Another thing that I want to, that I think we have to be a little careful on it, is that it is being humans as they are, and I'm not saying that everybody's going to do it, but a catch card is very dangerous. It's very dangerous because it could be used in anything, and you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Whereas when you have a tie to a store, or you have it tied to a grocery store, or whatever, you can only spend that in that place. And I want to have the limitations or what is going to be the process in order for us to avoid or try to minimize people misusing it. You know what I mean?
The cards are coded to only be used for medicine, groceries, and now utilities. So the gift cards are now coded.
Okay.
On top of that, people attest the same way they're now attesting to the fact that their economic hardship is due to a coronavirus-related, situation. They attest to it, so it's a sworn statement that they have a need for this.
I do understand, and I agree that you're expanding the use.
Right, but it's, we're also limiting the use of what they can use it for, because the
Absolutely.
cards are actually closing.
Within certain expenditures.
Yeah, it's correct, which are only grocery, foodstuffs, groceries, medicine, and now utilities with the amendment that we added. I have another amendment that I forgot, I thought it had been a pocket item, but it's actually an amendment to this resolution that also adds $2.5 million to the gift program, and it takes it from the business loan program. I've been informed by Mr. Casamayor that there are about $2.444 million in business loan requests. Not all of them have been approved yet, but assuming they were all approved, it would amount to about 2.44 million. That leaves about roughly 2.5 million left over. Because Mr. Casamayor expressed a concern about not being able to process these business loan grants in time by December 31st, within the limited time we have.
You're absolutely right.
I want to shift those remaining $2.5 million, assuming that all those applications are approved.
Is that amendment to this?
That's an amendment to this.
I'll second that amendment.
We're doing it all together, but I also want to make sure that Mr. Hannon understands that if it in fact is, Mr. Hannon, that if in fact it's more money left over, let's say some of these applications were rejected or didn't qualify, that whatever money is left over in the business loan program is now completely shifted beyond the 2.5 million, completely shifted to the gift card program so that we can distribute and not return any money to FEMA or to the county. So right now, it's a rough estimate, it's 2.5 million. I think some of those applications may be rejected, so it may be another 150,000, 200,000, whatever the number is. We want to make sure that every last dollar is given to our residents. So everything, it kind of just encapsulates the whole thing that the
Okay.
resolution does as amended.
One question. If this is to be distributed according to the same principle that it was,
Yes, sir.
beginning
It's a
with,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
based on the
API.
poverty level of East.
Yes, sir. We distribute the same way as the first batch of cards. The
Okay.
first
I'm
batch of
ready.
cards were distributed.
I'm ready to
But
vote.
since Commissioner Carollo is not here, I think Commissioner Carollo had, and maybe I'll speak for him, maybe out of place, but I'll try to do it right. I think he wanted to bring that number from 250 to 350. Is that correct, Ms. Mendes? No, does Commissioner Carollo have an amendment? No. I already explained my amendment. I think Commissioner Carollo may have had an amendment. He's not on the dais. But I think he wanted to bring that amount to $350 if the commissioner.
You can bring the maximum 350.
Yeah, well, I'll do that.
But if you gave
I'll do it as my amendment. We'll just lift that
That's
to
right.
350. If a commissioner decides that he wants to give a $350 card
Then-
for
then-
utility payment or anything of that nature, the commissioner can also do that.
but
We'll amend it to that effect.
So Commissioner, if there's going to be different denominations.
Yes, sir.
And you can have one at 250, which is the regular one, and get another one for $100 and give it, and that's it. That's it.
So I think
Yes.
is there still discussion? I think it was important to give first of all, let me say this, let me back up. I think we all have been kind of under the gun on this gift card program, and I have to tell you, I know staff was looked at cross-eyed, but I went out because there are no Publix in my district, one. And so what I found was in going to Bravo, Winn-Dixie, Top Choice, that some people are not set up to do this. And so it really wasn't staff who made a decision. Staff did what they had to do given the time frame we're working within. So I think some of this should have been done up front, but we just said, look, we may not make it, we don't want to get our money back, so let's just go. And I think now after it's been done, we want to give them as much flexibility as we can for us to help as many people as we can. That's really what it sounds like what's going on.
Yes, sir.
I've gone to those stores myself and asked them, you should participate in the program, call Mr. Casamayor, work out the details, and some are willing to do so. They didn't know about it, and that's not staff's fault, one. Two, I think that I'm for supporting the food part of it. I think we cannot overlook the business people. I think it's ironic that their nonprofits did better with the county than business. These people don't understand. People who are in business employing people who live in the city should be assisted. And we put a lot of hurdles on the business people. It's probably why we don't have as many applications. I've handed out personally about 60 applications. Based on the formula given to me, it would be about 65 up to 20, and I've handed out about 50 applications myself to encourage people to apply. So we're seeking now, hopefully, to give staff and administration flexibility to work with us regarding making sure we have as many residents participate and as many businesses hopefully participate. I've tried to hold a session where I walk people through classes, sessions on explaining to them, because a lot of people just didn't understand. And so I hope that's the spirit of what we're trying to do, and people understand, that's the best thing for everybody involved.
Thank
I
you.
like to say for the business applications you have, give them $5,000 and let them keep on going. That's what I would like to put on the table. Commissioner, I don't know if you let me do that, but if they hand in an application, then they should be now subject to the same things, because some people have not done certain things, but they should be helped. If a person has now been paying lease payments and lights for the last 8 months, hey man, they've been there, and so that's something that could make a lot of sense. So.
Thank you. Something came up during I'm sorry, Mr. Casamayor, you wanted to respond?
So I just want to make it clear so that we have a good understanding. This is the last commission meeting for this year, so whatever we set up here is what we're going to have to ride with until December 30th. We can get cash gift cards, as you call them. They're either MasterCard or Visa cards. We would have to do an emergency purchase in order to do so, so we'll be coming back at a later date to ratify that emergency purchase. We could limit the commodity codes that those cards can be used for groceries, pharmacy, and I believe utility as well. So we can do that. The turnaround time to get those cards is typically about 72 hours from where we're getting them, so we already have a 72-hour kind of wait. So the request would be whatever you all want to get so that we can start distributing, whether they're $100 allotments, whether they're cash cards, whether they're Sedano's cards or Publix cards or whatever that is, just the request to get with us very quickly so that we can put that order in and we can continue to just run with this as fast as we can so we can spend as much money until the 30th.
So Mr. Chair? Yes. So Mr. Casamayor, you can put in the order and get the clock ticking on 4,000 cards for my district of $100 each. 4,000 cards, 4,000 of $100 each. And the other 1,500 or so we'll probably put early next week.
Well, if I may,
And by the way, this is not, I'm sorry, let me finish. This is only what we already know we're going to give out because we're close to that number already. Just got a text of the number of requests that we've had. We're about 3,900. So I can tell you with confidence, and they're flying. I mean, these things the requests are coming in. So you can go ahead and place a 4,000. This does not include, once we do this additional allocation, then I need your administration, the administration to come to me and to us and to say, this is the additional dollars we have.
that's what I was going to ask. How much are we going to get?
So you come back to us today, by the end of the day, if you can, and you say, hey, District 5 gets this, District 3 gets that, District 4 gets that, District 1 gets this, okay, and District 2 gets that. So we want to have an idea of exactly how many more gift cards, so we can use our manpower to visit the people we're visiting and to make sure that everybody's reached it in the short period of time we have. I also would like to accommodate Commissioner Watson's request that there are some pending applications that may not be sitting in your office yet, right? That he says that he's already provided people some applications, they have not returned them yet. Those are maybe applications you may be able to process that may be, that may come through, that may exceed the $2.5 million that we have in that now, we would now have in that business loan program. So I'd like to amend my amendment to make it $2 million for now, instead of $2.5 million, to allow another $500,000 to be floating out there. If any money's left over, that all those dollars go automatically over to the gift card program, whatever's left over. You could do that administratively, but you would have to let us know maybe by December 20th or 21st or something like that, how many of those business loan programs you've approved and what's left over so that we can have that extra 8 or 9 days to distribute those cards throughout the district and the respective districts. So to give Commissioner Watson some flexibility with the applications that are out there but have not been received here in your offices yet, that at least we have that flexibility to be able to live up to our commitment to those business owners too.
Thank you. Commissioner Carollo.
Was that clear, Mr. Hanner? Oh, he's not even there.
So, yes, he was clear. He just wants to make sure that the seconder is okay with those amendments.
Yes. Oh,
And then Commissioner Carrillo, there was an amendment made to raise the limit to 350.
Okay,
You
that's-
want-
I made the amendment to
Yeah,
include it all
good.
together.
Thank you. That's what I was going to suggest, that we would have a leeway so that if something happens at the end, we will spend all the money and nothing goes back to the feds. That we raise it at 350, but on the low end, we're at 100. Now, I'm sorry I had to be out here. I had to do something none of you could do for me. On the Visa MasterCards, while I have a lot of reservation in going with Visa MasterCards, and simply because if they're lost or anything, it's simpler for somebody to move them anywhere in the country than be limited down here. But I understand that, and I understand that clearly, that District 5 has no big store chains, really, and a lot of small stores. District 1 only has one Presidente, and it's probably the oldest of them all, and then the rest are small stores. So that's the only way that they're going to be able to move. Within my district, I still would like to go with the Ciudadanos, unless Presidente can finally be able to get cars themselves to give to us. But if not, I go with Presidente because I got enough in my district that are spread out that would serve our needs. How quickly can you have for them the MasterCards?
72 hours.
Yeah, 72 hours from the point of order. So as soon as we let the company know this is how many we need, and these are the denominations that we
Okay.
need, it's 72 hours, maybe sooner,
Okay.
but I don't want to say, they told me 72 hours, so that's,
With Ciudadanos, you got plenty, right?
we have some Sedanos cards already on hand. We can order more. Those are quicker than the 72
well,
hours.
My additional ones, I like them all in trumps of 100. We're almost done, if are not done, with the $250 ones. So from then on, if we could get them in the hundreds. Now, my only other question is, what limitations do we have with the county? Because we started talking about groceries, then we found out that we could do the pharmacies, and I'm hearing some other things that they could be used for now.
Are you referring to the Publix cards, or?
No, I'm referring to.
To the Visa cards?
The Visa or MasterCard, whatever they are.
They're able to, from conversation we've had with them, they can actually have commodity codes added to the card, so they can only purchase the things that the Assistant City Manager said.
And what are they going to be, Mr. Manager?
Groceries, pharmacies,
Utilities.
utilities.
And utilities.
possibly, yeah.
They believe.
Okay. And the government will reimburse for that too in those cards?
What we've gotten from the county is that they would reimburse us for, if it does meet the need. So groceries meet a need, pharmacy meet a need, and utilities meet a need.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for the actual verification on the utilities. So what I would ask is if it is rejected from the county, that we can, continue on with this and just
Yeah.
limit out the utility.
All right, well,
I'll amend it to that effect.
Thank you.
Okay.
One other thing that we could do right now, and my procurement director just let me know, is that you could also amend this legislation to approve the emergency right now, so we don't have to come back to have that done retroactively.
So I'll add that
that
can
should
I add
be.
that to my amendment also?
That
to
should
approve
be,
the
yeah.
emergency?
Is that a separate motion or a separate item?
It's a
No,
combined,
it-
it's
and that-
combined.
it could
add
be
on?
in the same one, I believe.
Can it could be added to it?
I'll add it to my existing motion.
Add it to it,
into
that's it.
section.
So
Does the seconder agree to all of that?
Yes.
That's-
So
Okay.
You recognized?
I'm sorry, just for my clarity, because we're making orders, so we're gonna get that grid again, so we'll know what we have. And then we'll forward names to you in order to be suffice, right?
I'm sorry, I can hardly hear you.
I know
The
it's
grid
hard
in
to
terms
hear.
of the amount of cards
So
you
we're
want?
gonna get the grid, Commissioner asked for the grid, so we'll know what it is we're looking at. What was
Absolutely,
already
sir.
done, what was left, and we're making orders. I just wanna know, we'll be able to do that once we take a look at it and be able to say to you, based on the 72 hours, we'll be able to say to you, okay, that's fine.
Okay, and just for further clarification, on the Visa cards or the MasterCard, they need to receive the money as well, because there's money on the card, so there might be a little bit more time to do those.
Well, it is, Mr. Chairman, I mean, it is 3:48, Mr. Casamayor, so make sure you get to them before 5 o'clock today, so the clock will start ticking.
Yeah, and I believe they might be on the West Coast, so they're,
Oh, we're good to-
Pacific
oh, we're
time,
good
so
to
we
go.
may actually
That's
have a
even
little
better,
bit more
that's even
time.
better. Okay, we're good to
Thank
go.
you.
But
And the bottom line for those that are going to be listening at home, or those that are here, each card that we give out, based upon a resolution from this commission, they have to give us a sworn affidavit, which means it's under the penalty of perjury. If they lied, there's a consequence. We have to have for each card information from an individual that lives in the city of Miami, their name, their address, a phone number, et cetera,
ID.
including a picture ID of some kind with an address. So for each car that goes out, we have to keep one of those. And the only concern that I always have in stuff like this, that there's so much, so quick, that things can happen. So I just urge that we emphasize to our staffs that they have to be very protective of these cards, especially if we're going to have Visas or MasterCards for a couple of the districts.
Thank you. So,
I'm sorry, if I can just say, it's been a real pleasure working with all of your staff. We've been intimately working together, so I just wanted to share that they're doing a lot of hard work, and our neighborhood and service centers as well, so.
thank you. This is a very good program, and I'm thankful to the administration for their flexibility with us. My secondary concern to actually helping the residents is making sure that we get reimbursed. Madam City Attorney, I asked this during my briefing because I noticed in the first round of applications, we needed a notary sign for the affidavit, but in the second round, it was not there.
It's a mistake from,
I just want to know that the city attorney is satisfied, administration satisfied that we will get reimbursed the way we are currently doing it.
I can tell you that the county is not requiring a sworn affidavit with
Okay.
a notary. They are just requiring a form explaining the need
Yeah.
with the identification of the individual.
yeah, Commissioner, to refresh your memory, the reason that we got into a sworn affidavit was that I brought that up.
I remember.
That we should have it, not because it was a requirement. And the reason it said sworn, because the Supreme Court of Florida has stated that a sworn affidavit, following the pattern of statute, which we did, is as good as one that, is the old-fashioned, that you get a notary public. And a notary public, as we all know, is burdensome. You got to find some, et cetera, and it takes more time. That's why, at that time, I suggested we go with the sworn statement, and that's why it was switched.
Very good.
Staff, I guess, didn't quite understand it in the beginning, but, once we explained it again, it was done in the appropriate way that we approved it.
Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion on the item? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good.
Motion
By-
passes as amended.
By when, Mr. Casamayor, are we going to know how many additional dollars from the next $2 million is each office going to get?
So I'm going to ask Mr. Porro right now, when he walks back to his desk, to put our API, the API percentages to the number, the $2 million. We can figure out what your current balance is right now,
Okay.
and let you know before the end of the day today what your new balances would be.
Well, do that in two different ways.
Yes, separate.
Please. Give us, because that could mess the equation up. Give us the new additional balance just based on that 2 million, and then give each of us a separate amount of what we got left if any, on the original amount.
You got it.
And I think the rest of us will know how to add it up and figure it out.
Yes, sir.
All set. All right, thank you very much. So on to the ordinances. Madam City Attorney, if you could have the SRs and FRs read into the record prior to us taking them up.
I got one more pocket item, remember?
You want to add it to the list?
I got a pocket item that was left, so,
Oh, no, we all do. We haven't got, only one we did was PI 1.
okay,
Yep.
that's fine.
Um,
Thank you.
If you could read the, I knew she was going to call Barnaby,
What,
because he reads at the speed
Right.
of a pharmaceutical commercial.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. SR 1 is ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 39, Article 2 of the City Code, the Code of the City of Miami, Florida is amended, titled Peddlers and Itinerant Vendors, Sidewalk and Street Vendors, by deleting requirements and definitions related to the obsolete Coconut Grove, Miami Arena, Biscayne Boulevard, and Restaurant Arcade Special Vending Districts, providing for prohibitions against vending in the Wynwood and Coconut Grove Business Improvement Districts, and on any right-of-way of any T3 transit zone, further providing for further providing for a modified maximum width for vending stands in the right-of-way, clarifying continued allowance for peddling, containing a celery clause, and providing for an immediate effective date. SR 2 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 54 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida as amended, titled Streets and Sidewalks, more particularly by creating new sections 54-59 through 54-62 to create an enhanced right-of-way improvement trust fund, further requiring those adjacent property owners required to construct or reconstruct street improvements in connection with certain building permits in areas with adopted street master plans to pay into the trust fund in order to capture costs for such improvements, which may include non-standard streetscape improvements, containing a severance clause and providing for an effective date. SR 3 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission deleting Chapter 14, Article 2, Division 3 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida as amended, titled Downtown Development, Downtown District, Downtown Pedestrian Priority Zone, and amending Chapter 54 of the City Code titled Streets and Sidewalks, more particularly by creating a new Article 10, titled Pedestrian Priority Zones, establishing the Little Havana Pedestrian Priority Zone, setting boundaries, establishing standards for pedestrian comfort and safety, and providing that this article shall govern in the event of conflicts. Further recodifying and renumbering the section of the City Code relating to the existing Downtown Pedestrian Priority Zone, containing a celery clause and providing for an effective date. SR 4 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission by a 4/5 affirmative vote, amending Chapter 2, Article 10 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida as amended, titled Administration Code Enforcement, more specifically by amending Section 2-817, subsection B of the City Code, titled Administration Costs, Fines, Liens, to allow for enhanced per diem fines for commercial properties, and to amend Section 2-830 of the City Code, titled Alternate Code Enforcement System, to provide for expanded hearings for special magistrates, to update special magistrates' qualifications, and to amend the sunset provision, containing a severance clause and providing for an effective date. FR 1 was continued, correct? FR 2 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 35, Article 5 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida as amended, titled Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Coconut Grove Business Improvement District, Design District, and Wynwood Parking Improvement Trust Funds, more particularly by amending Sections 35-220 of the City Code, titled Required Off-Street Parking and Payment in lieu of Required Off-Street Parking, and by establishing a new Section 35-233 titled Wynwood Norte Parking Improvement Trust Fund intent established, Section 35-234 of the City Code titled Funds Made Available, Financial Report, Section 35-235 of the City Code titled Schedule of Fees and Charges for Wynwood Norte Parking Trust Fund, Section 35-236 of the City Code titled Parking Waiver Certificates, Revocation, Refunds, containing a severance clause and providing for effective date. FR 3 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 62, Article 14 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida as amended, titled Planning and Zoning Public Benefits Trust Fund, more particularly by establishing a new Section 62-647 of the City Code, titled NR2D Public Benefits Trust Fund Intent, Section 62-648 of the City Code, titled Established, and Section 62-649 of the City Code, titled Financial Report, containing a severance clause and providing an effective date.
Thank you very much. Is the board open to batching the ordinances together in a single vote, or is there any specific item that someone would like to pull to discuss separately?
saying RS 1, 3, and 4?
1, 3, and 4 you'd like to take separately?
No, I'm saying those are the ones that are left, right?
So we're taking up SR 1, 2, 3, 4, and FR 2 and 3. If there's a motion to approve all of those,
FR 2 and FR 3.
Let me just see SR 2, what is, yeah, we can take them all together.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair,
Watson?
FR 2 and FR 3.
you'd like to take separately?
Yes, sir.
So just the second reading ordinances, is there a motion for SRs 1, 2, 3, and
So
4?
moved.
Moved by Commissioner Diaz-La Portilla,
Second.
seconded by
Chairman.
Commissioner Reyes. Madam City Attorney, you're recognized.
Remember that SR 4, I believe, is a 4/5?
SR 4, yes.
Is a four.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on the dais? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes for SRs 1, 2, 3, and 4. Thank you very much. We'll take up FR2. Commissioner Watson, you're recognized.
Yes. Commissioners, I'm looking at FR 2 and 3, and I just have a concern regarding this Public Benefits Trust Fund.
Commissioner, if you'd like to defer it, I'll be happy to second it for you.
No. We're gonna move it. I'm gonna try to see if I can at least give my concerns on the record. And it's two, in FR2, this is listed long here. In FR2, I want to make sure, when we start talking of primarily affordable housing, that the creation of housing unit anew does not kind of disadvantage people who want to stay in these areas. I contend, as much as staff believes this is done procedurally great, I think that this beginning of evaluation increase that makes people have to move. So that being said, rather than just money being used for the creation of new units, there should be flexibility in those funds that are put in this trust fund so that people who would like to stay, who are on stagnant incomes, people downtrending incomes, and now not able to do much to fix their places if they want to stay, some flexibility is given to that trust fund so that they can come in and get monies to do that. That's what I'd like to see as it relates to that, those funds that are being accumulated. That's one. The second one is, I'm not sure that any development in this town where a parking lot's going to cost $6,000, or a parking space, surface or otherwise. And so I'd like to see that amount that they're contributing to this fund probably be around $20,000. That should be a fair amount to be contributed to the fund in this instance. And those are the two things I like to see as it relates to these companion items.
Thank you very much. That's a recommended amendment. We haven't yet got a motion, though. Is there also a motion on the item?
So move.
Moved. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Reyes. Moved by Commissioner Watson. Question for the Planning Department. The first amendment that was requested, is that something that is needed to alter the trust fund, or is that already, can the money already be spent on exactly what he asked for?
Good afternoon, Jeremy Carlos Gauger, Assistant Director for Planning. We would need to make a change between first and second reading to make sure that we include that for both of your recommendations.
Clearly the second one was an amendment. So the trust fund isn't currently able to be spent in the way that was mentioned in terms of retaining current residents and...
At the very least, we should clarify the language to make sure that that's allowed.
Got it. Got it. So that would be between first and second.
Yes.
All right. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes as amended. That's FR2 and FR3. Moving to boards and committees, please.
I'm sorry, Chair.
Yes.
So the amendment was for FR2 or for FR3?
So if you'd like to explain.
The commissioner stated the things he would like to see for second reading, so no
Okay, so in
amendment at
between
this-
first and second, adopted as is, FR2 and 3.
So yes, I apologize. Not amended in this vote, to be amended, well, to be changed between first and second for second reading vote. Thank you.
Understood.
All right, boards and committees.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. DC 21, Off-Street Parking Board. The Off-Street Parking Board has nominated Marlon Hill for City Commission confirmation for an unexpired term ending June 14, 2023.
Is there a motion?
Move it.
It's been moved by Commissioner Reyes, seconded by Commissioner Diaz-La Portilla. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Chair. That does it for the boards and committees.
That's it. All right.
Before we move, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Before we move out of boards and committees, let me ask Mr. Casamayor, oh, he's not there. Oh, Ziri, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
As far as the police chief is concerned, I believe that there's a board, an interview board that each commissioner gets to name one person to that interview board. Mr. Noriega has shared that with me. Is that still the case?
What board are we talking about? What board?
Mr. Noriega, our city manager, had told me that the commission each commissioner would pick one member of an interview committee,
Or,
the selection of the police chief.
I don't believe we formally created a board.
I'm glad
Yes.
somebody besides me remembered that.
Yes, I did. He said, I have a great, like you, Commissioner, I have a great memory. It's our blessing and our curse, Commissioner, right?
So there has not been a board constituted to this effect. I believe it was a discussion that was had, plus a binder that was circulated.
What happened
Yeah.
Right, that's
was
not what
that
happened.
I was trying to make the process the most transparent as possible. But because of charter concerns, the city attorney said that we did not even have the right to establish an advisory board of top-notch former police chiefs or special agents in charge. The city manager then stated that he would come to each of us and speak to us so that we will give him a recommendation, and he would constitute the committee himself in that fashion. I don't believe that's happened. I don't know if a committee has been established per se, and if so, who's in the committee. I will say this to you, that I have some very great concerns on how this process is going. And if we don't learn from the past, the history will repeat itself. So this is why I have a charter amendment that we'll be talking about soon to clear the dust for the near future. And if a real professional, and I don't care who it is, where they come from, who they are, if a real professional, top-notch police chief is not chosen, that the people of Miami will decide in November through the commission to act openly and speak for them and find one. And for commissions in the future to be able to do so.
Thank you. Madam City Attorney, you were literally clutching your pearls as he was speaking. Would you like to address the issue of the board?
Great. We had discussed at the last commission meeting that unfortunately pursuant to the charter that we could not have a committee with members placed by this commission to choose the next police chief. But obviously, you are allowed to ask questions, find out what the process is, what the status is, what's been happening, who's on a committee. You can inquire to your heart's content. We just can't place anyone on a committee so that the manager can.
But that's not what I stated, Madam City Attorney. I've acknowledged what you told us the last time. What I am talking about is that the manager volunteered that he wanted to, and he was going to come to each of us and ask for our suggestion on whom he should name from each of us.
I'm glad that he wants to do that voluntarily, but I still think that would be a problem with the charter. We, again, it would have to be that you are inquiring, asking questions, what have you, not appointing someone, even if it's voluntary or not, even if the manager is forcing you or not. You're pursuant to the charter, unfortunately, there is no process to do that.
Commissioner Diaz-Portillo, you're right.
Can you read to me what the charter says, the precise language?
Neither the mayor nor the city commission nor any committees nor members thereof shall direct, request, take part in, or dictate the appointment or removal of any person in office or employment by the city manager or subordinates, or in any manner interfere with the city manager or prevent the city manager from exercising his or her own judgment in the appointment of officers and employees in the administrative service. Unfortunately, the words "take part in," forget everything else, just "take part in"
No, no,
is
well, no,
very...
you can't forget everything else. You
Okay,
can-
then listen to everything
I
else.
am. Well, let me ask you the question. Exercising his judgment, you also have to take that into account. That's what the city, I also met with the city manager, I think we all did on this issue. And he was very clear to me, he made it very clear after you gave your opinion here in the dais, after that meeting, that he wanted to talk to each commissioner, that he was going to talk to each commissioner and ask what they recommended, what they thought, what their thoughts were. So his judgment, if I sit down with our city manager and I say, look, I think Joe Smith is a really talented guy that knows how to interview and has law enforcement experience. I think that this guy will be great. And as he exercises his judgment, he decides on his own. I don't take part in that judgment, that decision making. I'm not in his head. I'm not taking part in the decision making process. It's his judgment. As he exercises that judgment, he says, let me take a look at this guy, and this guy is a guy that Alex Diaz-La Portilla or Commissioner Carollo or Commissioner Reyes mentioned as a possible guy. In my judgment, you're right. This makes sense. I decide that I want to name Joe Smith to this interview committee or the selection committee. Why is that a violation of the charter?
I've given you my opinion.
I know.
I've read
I'm asking for
the
your opinion,
section of
but
the
I'm asking you to be
charter.
precise on the language that we're talking about.
It says, it's pretty clear. It just says that you cannot direct, request, take part in, or dictate the appointment or removal of
It's not an
any person.
appointment. It's a conversation. It's not, I'm not taking part
Right, so
in a
the
conversation. I'm having a
conversation-
conversation with someone, hey, Joe Smith is a really talented guy. He knows about law enforcement. He's an expert in this. I'm not taking part in his decision. I'm not saying, I think you should do this, or I recommend you do this, or what about this? What are you doing to appoint this? I'm saying, this is a good guy that I think will be great for this role. And then he exercises his judgment on his own and says, I took advice from Commissioner Carollo, from Commissioner Reyes, from Commissioner Watson, or Commissioner Diaz-La Portilla, and even Commissioner Russell. And he says, hey, this is a good idea. I'm not taking part in him picking anyone. We're not taking part in him picking anyone. We're simply having a conversation, as we normally do on a regular basis with the city manager, about people that are talented, people that can help him in this process. In his judgment, solely in his judgment, after taking all the information. Judgments are based on information that you get from reading, from talking to people, from, getting different opinions, and then you exercise your judgment and say, you know what, I have enough information, I like Joe Smith. That's the way I interpret that. I interpret it as us mandating or dictating or taking part in the selection of anyone, rather having a conversation about ideas, sharing ideas with a city manager, and that manager draws his own conclusion, exercises his own judgment, and picks that person that I or Commissioner Reyes or Carollo or anyone else in this commission picked. So I don't agree with your interpretation of this. I do agree that we cannot name, from the dais, we cannot name anyone, so we're going to name a committee, and that I agree with. But the fact that we have the right to have a conversation with our city manager and give him our thoughts and our ideas as duly elected officials, I think it's a good thing for the process. I think
Right, but
it's
that's
a transparent way of doing this, and I think that to put those limitations on not having this commission, the same way that I think Commissioner Carollo has said publicly that he wants to have go through an interview process here. Commissioner Carollo is the only one on this dais that has served as mayor for this city. So he's dealt with many police chiefs. He knows the selection process. He knows the mistakes that can be made along the way. Add to that the fact that we're in a COVID-19 world today, and add to that the fact that we're in a world where there's a lot of tension between the police establishment and a lot of our population, that this process in particular is extremely important for this commission to get it right. And the more transparent we are, the more people see who the candidates are, the better off everyone's going to be, the better way it's going to be, and the better off the process will be, and the better chief we're going to pick at the end of the day. To me, to not go through that due diligence is a mistake. And a mistake I think that many of us will regret if we don't go through that proper process at this juncture in our city's history.
Well, this city cannot afford that kind of mistake again. And so far, I haven't seen the kind of transparency that I feel this process should have. We haven't been asked for any kind of input, not in who to pick, but on the process. We were told certain things, and so far they haven't happened. But let me ask you this next question to see if we can't even do this. If we would like to hear from some of the applicants so that the public could hear from them, see who they are, at least give the public some transparency that these are some of the applicants that are applying that we think are some of the best, just so the public could hear from them and we could ask them questions. Can we even do that, do you think, Madam City Attorney? Just to listen.
I think that you can definitely advise the manager that you would be interested in listening to all the candidates and for them to give speeches and what have you.
I'm not saying all the candidates because we don't have the time for all the candidates and not all the candidates are qualified.
Or his
for this
top
position.
5 or whatever.
No,
But
you can't have a guy that comes from a town of 20 that, outside of, Deputy 5, he didn't have anybody else under his command apply for being a police chief of a city the size of Miami with over 1,300 police officers sworn and close to 2,000 people in a department. So those, I don't even want to hear from. So my question is, can we ask from the list for X amount of these people to come, if they want to, and hear from them so they could speak to the public of Miami why they feel they should be hired to be the next chief of police of Miami and what their qualifications and background are.
you can advise the manager that you would like to hear from the potential candidates. I would request that you don't ask questions of them, just give them a presentation to give you a
I'll
presentation.
even put handcuffs on myself and every one of my colleagues, so we
I
can't do anything.
unfortunately, I did not
I mean,
write this
after all, we
charter.
were just elected,
Right.
to,
I did not write the charter, and you and I have talked
I
extensively
understand you
about
did not.
rewriting it. And
I understand you
the
did not, but
frustration.
I also have gone through this process many, many times. And I'm gonna, maybe I shouldn't. Let me be politically correct and not tell you how some things were done in the past. What this department and this city cannot withstand anymore are all the political deals and shenanigans that have gone on behind the scenes. We have a department that 60% of our officers have been here 4 years or less. A department that, even though I'm going to be damned by some, and I'll see that guy that gets $135,000 from sitting at home and weightlifting and having a good old time, making YouTube commercials, be blasting again. I'm going to say what many people know, but don't want to say. We have a major discipline problem in our department. We have a major problem with supervision. We have many, many problems, not the least, that many of our young officers got used to getting cash in the past from a lot of places, particularly alcohol establishments. So when you have that kind of problem, and I won't get into many others, we need discipline. We need someone that's going to be has the experience of being a big city police chief, assistant chief, a major position, to come here and do what's right. I don't want to see someone hired because, sergeant of arms, private, a corporal, blows in somebody's ear, boy, he will be good. He's my buddy. And they're doing it because if this guy gets appointed chief, they're going to then be moving up in ranks and, that whole thing that has gone on here for too long. Now, I'd like to hear and invite some of the people that have applied, some local, some not local, to come and have the public see them and for us to hear from them. It's the manager, obviously, that makes the decision. But I also want, in a little bit, to have you, if the commission approves, obviously, instruct you to start working on a charter amendment so you can bring it back at the right time based upon the charter, because now we can't approve it. So that this commission, for years to come, will have in the charter that we will be responsible in a very transparent process that should be described how it will be in choosing a police chief, a fire chief, and a budget director. These are three key positions that a commission should have a heck of a lot of say-so on. And it should be in an open, transparent process where no shenanigans are going on or horse trading behind closed doors.
Thank you. Commissioner Diaz-del-Portillo.
Just not to belabor the point, Ms. Mendez, but is there anything in our charter that prevents us or from requesting that the city manager, after he narrows down, I think the list is now 37 or something. Is that correct, Mr. Casamayor? What, you don't know?
No,
You don't
I
know
don't
either,
know, sir.
okay.
Well,
I didn't think you were going to tell me.
when you said 37, Commissioner,
Yes,
were
sir.
there more that had applied than
I
the
think so.
37?
I think it's, well, the number that I heard was 37. That's why I'm asking Mr.
The total number that applied.
The whole number, yes, sir. And I figured that you would tell me, that you would know the number, because you're sitting in as a city manager today, of how many people have applied to be police chief in the city of Miami. It's not like a difficult number to memorize, right? 37, 38, I mean, you would know that. I figured you would tell me that, but you're not, okay. Is there, once he narrows that down to 10, let's say, is there anything that precludes this commission from requesting that those interviews be conducted in public, in the sunshine?
That you just want to request the manager to
Is
conduct
there
the
anything that
interview?
precludes, that prevents this commission from requesting or directing that those interviews conducted solely by the manager without any commission participation just be conducted in the sunshine, in public? In other words, the manager sitting there, the police chief standing there, and the city manager asking him the question he would ask him in a private interview in an office. Is there anything that, in the charter, not your opinion and policy, I'm talking in the charter, that prevents us from doing that?
Okay, so the words that I most hang on, unfortunately, are take part in or dictate. I think that a request from you, that the manager has obviously heard everything that you have said.
Is there
and how
anything
you
that
feel
prevents the
about-
manager from himself saying, to this commission, I am going to do these interviews for these last 10 people
There's nothing that prevents
in
it.
front of the public, in front of the press, and in front of this commission, and all citizens of the city of Miami, whoever wants to watch it, right here in this chamber.
Right. There's nothing that prevents that much of a transparent process.
Thank you. Madam City Attorney, and I wanted to listen to everyone and fully respect the points of view. Commissioner Correa, especially, you've been through enough police chiefs to know the consequences of selecting well and selecting poorly. So I want to respect that very much, and I recognize how important it is to you that we have some sort of input. But I do see the charter in a way that the city attorney does as well. The words "take part in" really would preclude us, in my opinion, from making a motion or a direction to the manager on anything having to do with the process of how he should do it. And potentially even further, and it could be interpreted, we could be wrong, but it could be open to challenge, a charter violation, if there were a public hearing where we were present and there were interviews going on, it could be construed as taking part in. And so I could be wrong, but in abundance of caution, I've chosen to try to stay as removed from this process as possible. And the discussions we've had so far on the dais, I believe, are fully safe within the charter to discuss the process of what we're allowed to do. Nowhere in our discussions have we recommended the manager who he should choose, how he should do it. But when I did receive the binder that started to narrow down selection and then discussed about the board, I actually sent it back to the manager with a thank you very much. Just because out of abundance of caution, I do not want to be construed as taking part in the selection process. And if we were to have a meeting, I would recommend you do it as a special meeting. And I have to be very honest, I would not attend. Because I'm really concerned that this could be construed as a charter violation. Whether it's right or wrong, we could get challenged on that, and the consequences could be pretty significant for us.
Chairman, look, we're bound basically to go with the opinion of the city attorney, and particularly in things of the sort. So I'm not about to challenge that. What I fully intend to do, and that's why I had my item on discussion and charter. After I would hear this whole conversation, then I'm prepared, when that item comes up, to have a discussion between us, hopefully brief, where we will instruct the city attorney how to go about in writing a charter change. There'll be plenty of time for discussions between her and each of us individually, and then for it to be brought back so that the charter would be changed beginning November. We put to a vote that I believe will pass, and the charter will be changed beginning November for this commission and future commissions in the city of Miami, so that you guarantee for the future a real, fully transparent process. Look, I wasn't going to say this, but these are the facts, how things have been done in the past and not so much in the past. I was very young. There was an opening for a police chief. The same charter, but we're all big boys. We all know how things are done. So it was the manager that was there trying to appease me that he wants to name so-and-so police chief, and so that I would be pleased, he offers me to pick the assistant police chief, the main one. And I declined. And the guy that he thought that I wanted also declined. And I'm glad that he did, because he showed me that he had principle. And this is many, many years ago. And I'll leave it at that. That's why I won for the future, for the voters of Miami, to guarantee for themselves a very transparent, open process that would assure them the best opportunity to pick the best every time there's an opening for a police chief, a fire chief, or a budget director. Those are three extremely important positions that future commissions need to have a say-so in an established, transparent way that they can deviate from.
Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion on the issue?
No, and if that passes and the wrong person is chosen based on politics, not on professionalism, then this commission can make changes in November. I just want to leave that there. That's okay though, right, Madam City Attorney? I'm not saying anything that I shouldn't?
No, you're fine.
Thank you, okay. But I just wanted to know.
Thank you. Does that conclude discussion item 2, or do you have further points on the charter amendment subject?
Hold on, no,
We hadn't
Two.
officially taken it up, but it kind of, the conversation went into
well,
it,
no,
so.
2, I would like a resolution that we instruct the city attorney to start working on a charter amendment that will establish certain criterias that future commissions will be bound by in establishing open and transparent processes on the choosing of a police chief, fire chief, and budget director for the commission to choose and vote upon. And I would suggest that you each meet with her. There'll be plenty of time before we could even vote on it. And then it comes back to us for approval. How many days before?
120
Okay,
before the election.
before the election, okay?
Any further discussion on
Yeah.
discussion item 2?
So there's a motion on that.
So there's a motion directing the city attorney to work with each commissioner and come back in, do you have a time period?
Well, as soon as we're allowed to, by, the charter, the 120 days.
120 days.
Technically, it would be June or July that we bring it, but I'll obviously give you a draft
Yeah.
by the beginning of the year,
I have
by
a question.
January, first week in January.
I have a question.
Thank you. So there's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Reyes.
Before I second, I want to ask a question. This motion is to get the city attorney started in the probability or in the, analyzing, first of all, if it is, it's feasible, if it is within the parameters of the law,
It is.
and also, and get each of us opinion
Yep.
and suggestions, either if we agree with it, or if we don't agree with it, or which way we wanted to do it. And if we reach consensus, then it will be placed on the ballot. We'll vote to place it on the ballot. But doesn't mean that by passing this now,
No.
it's going to be placed in the ballot in November.
It can't.
Okay, I know, but I want to just clarify that. Remember, I'm a Guajerito from Victoria Latour, and I want to think clear, man. Okay? So I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, yes, I second.
Thank you very much. There's a motion, there's a second. Public comment, do we open it for public comment on this?
This actually is going to be, this isn't going to be captured as a resolution. It's more of just a direction
Yeah.
with the force of the commission behind the direction versus an individual commissioner issuing the direction. So for us, we're just going to write this out, what we would call in the verbose action portion of the minutes. So I do not believe it requires public comment, but I'll defer to the city attorney.
Madam City Attorney? If we vote on it, do we need do we need public comment, or would you prefer that the motion, the direction has been given
direction.
already and you know what to do?
We normally open things up to public comment, but we already did, and I believe we closed it, so.
Not on this item, though. This is
This is
a
only-
new pocket item that just came up. It wasn't on the agenda, it wasn't noticed.
We're only giving you a
just-
direction.
A
Okay.
That's
direction,
right, that's all the direction.
All right, so then
If it's
motion
just a direction.
withdrawn and simple direction given?
No, it's a resolution
All right.
or a motion.
Given the right direction.
All right,
then just open up to public.
that's what I'm
comment.
going to do. So there's been a motion, there's been a second. Is there anyone here who would like to comment publicly on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. That's DI 2. Finished DI 3. Discussion, request for proposals. Is this Commissioner Diaz-Labortia's item?
Yeah, and he stepped.
We'll table that for now.
He
I'd
stepped
like to
down.
move into the planning zoning agenda and.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
A quick question. I guess maybe I was confused earlier when Commissioner Carollo tabled all the board's appointments. I thought it meant all. I didn't know
No,
it was only one.
table, I didn't table all the board's appointment.
Okay, then I was.
No,
I was confused on that. So let me, can I do something with BC 17?
BC 17.
Yeah, if you got any
Miami
boards-
21 report ad hoc task force. You'd like to appoint somebody?
Elisa Cepeda should be added. Elisa Cepeda, who's on, she should be added. They need her for a quorum. I spoke to her. Seems quietly capable and helpful to the process thus far, so I wanted to make sure that.
Sure. What board is that?
This is the Miami 21 ad hoc task force.
Yeah.
Ad hoc.
Meets the criteria or whatever's necessary. Is there a motion?
Do
Yes,
they have to
sir.
live in the city of Miami, or?
Yeah, she lives in the city of Miami.
Okay, all right.
She's up on Northeast, and she's already on it. She's a engineer, yeah.
And Chair, just so you know, she was previously serving on the committee, so really it's just a reappointment.
Understood. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Carollo. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner Diaz-Labortia, we were about to take up DI 3, request for proposals for City of Miami-owned marinas and adjacent properties.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I had in mind, and I'm going to try to make it as brief as possible, just want to sort of put the issue out there. And I think the administration, I had spoken to Mr. Casamayor yesterday, was going to do a brief presentation on the status of our existing marinas, the ones that the city owns that are not leased or under lease, and sort of give us an idea of what those marinas do and what they're generating for our city, and some of the more detailed analysis of the possibility perhaps that we can maybe issue some RFPs for different marinas, not only the Rickenbacker Marina, because it appears to me, and I think it's pretty clear to the rest of the commission, that there's sort of a stalemate as to what's going to happen with that Rickenbacker Marina. And the problem with that is that if we go through a whole RFP process just for that marina, we may very well end up exactly where we are today. The process that we started 6 years ago or something like that, we weren't here. I think Commissioner Reyes wasn't here, Commissioner Carollo wasn't here. I think you were the only one here, Commissioner Russell. And so to start again an RFP process just for that marina, from my perspective, it's going to probably end up in the same quagmire that we find ourselves in now with that marina. So we have a number of city-owned properties that are not generating the revenues that marinas should be generating for our city, in my opinion. I think a lot of experts agree on that. And I would like to have a sort of a lay of the land, an idea of where we are today, and perhaps the possibility this commission would consider, at least directing the manager to begin an RFP process for the Bayside Marina, for Dinner Key, for the Rickenbacker, the combined, our own marina plus the existing Rickenbacker, so that the different players and different marina operators or builders can bid for different marinas and sort of everybody gets something and the city gets a lot in return. And we at least have some world-class marinas in our city, which is really my ultimate goal. Because to me, it's never really mattered who does it. What really matters is that it's done by someone that's really will really build a world-class marina for us. So if we don't know what the lay of the land is today, then we can make intelligent and informed decisions as to what we want to move moving forward. It may very well be that at the end of the day, we decide that the marina should be operated by the city of Miami or remain being operated by the city of Miami. That could be the decision. We don't have to don't have to take up any RFP or put out any RFP. But what I want to do is sort of explore the options that are available to our city to be able to generate revenue, because I see dark economic times ahead for our city, and I want to explore every possibility to not only develop a world-class marina, but to create a real revenue generators for our city.
Yes.
Agreed. Commissioner Reyes, you're recognized.
Yes, I think I get your point, Commissioner. But I think particularly in your last sentences, what we really need is an in-depth analysis of the city-administered marinas versus a private ministered marinas. And it's going to be a comparison that we should make. and get, at least get an in-depth analysis so we can determine if it is worthy to place those marinas, place an RFP on those marinas. And also, there are certain things that have to be taken into consideration, you see. I'm a firm believer that we have to not only make money, but we have to also offer services and provide, those type of services to our residents. And there are marinas, for example, in here, in Cleaner Key, that we have people, because they own a boat, they're not rich, you see? And we have to balance that, and that's what I would like to see. You see, before we jump into an RFP for all the marinas, you see, because it might be that some marina will warrant, because it require extensive investment or whatever in order to bring it up to par, that then we should go in the private sector, or we should keep it because it doesn't have. That's the type of analysis that I would like to see. As a matter of fact, Commissioner Diaz de la Portilla, I've been asking for that. You see? I've been asking for that. I think that the only thing that we have to do is give a directive to the manager to please bring us that type of analysis.
Well, I think the first question to ask is, Mr. Casamayor, do we have a director of real estate asset management? Because our assets have so much potential, we need strong leadership in that position.
Sir, with due respect, with all due respect,
Yes,
you see, because you're a real estate expert,
I'm not.
you are not
No.
an expert in marinas.
That's my point.
Okay.
I'm neither.
But I think
I want a
that-
good director.
What I think, even a director, because we had a director before that didn't know nothing about marinas, didn't know the first thing about marinas. And that's another thing that I want to keep clear here and make very, very clear that whenever we are going to place an RFP and it's going to be evaluated, and it is a specialty like a marine operation, it should be evaluated by people that are experts in marina, even if we have to hire them and pay them. Because I am an economist, and if you are now getting me to evaluate any marinas, the first thing that I will have to do is spend about 4 months, getting acquainted with what a marina is. And I'm trained. I'm trained in order to analyze businesses. Imagine a person that only works on procurement, and it is buying a procurement. A person that works on procurement buys things, you know. They get prices from one place to another and makes a decision, but doesn't know anything about marinas, doesn't know about the complexity of running any business. And when I say marina, I'm talking about restaurants or whatever type of business. We should be evaluated by experts in order for us to avoid the trivias on the past problems that we had.
Thank you. Mr. Casamayor, where's our expert?
What's the point? Ready?
So I think the first question was, do we have a real estate and asset management director right now? We are in process to recruit one. In the meantime, I am serving in the capacity, just kind of watching over the shop. I am not a realtor and I am not a marina expert. I know a lot about real estate taxes, but that's the limitation of my real estate knowledge. I do have Mr. Mark Burns here, who's our leasing manager. He can give some information regarding the marinas that was requested yesterday at a briefing. I don't know if we're going to have enough information to fully satisfy the entire commission, but we can tell you what we have so far.
Okay,
Commissioner.
if I can, because I really want to cut through the chase. This is Christmas. Holidays are coming. Where all of our office should be, certainly mine is right now. All my staff is filling in bags for the holidays for the most needy in my district. And that's where I need to get to the minute I'm done here.
I move for adjournment.
I'd like to quickly. I don't want to get into something that we're going to be here for hours. This is done for a discussion, but not for a presentation. That's, way over.
Mr. Chair.
I am open,
So am I.
and I've been open since I was mayor, to the process of putting up for requests for proposals, city-owned marinas. In fact, I'm surprised that you didn't read all my ideas just before I left that are still collecting dust on this particular marina. That's a challenge to you. Go find it, because you're going to see just how vigorous it was. We could have Marbella in Miami, and I'll leave it at that. But the three things that I'm going to need, first of all, I think each of us should meet with the manager and discuss his ideas and for us to share ours with him and then come back. But one of the things, three, that I'm going to be having to look at, and this is not something that you're going to get overnight, is going to be one, on the city-run marinas. I want to see for the last 5 years at least, how much have they produced in revenue? Two, I would like to see real estimates, not Mickey Mouse ones, of how much they could produce if they were at market rate revenues. Three, I would like to see estimates of what we're estimating we can get if the private sector was running them. Fourth, which is a lot harder, what additional things can we add on to the marinas, not necessarily in the water, that could bring even more revenues and make them much more attractive? You know, the process of going with RFPs is not one that you just say, boom, put an RFP.
No.
It doesn't work that way.
I know.
But Commissioner,
But the problem is not boom.
Who's waiting?
I'm sorry.
You were waiting, and then
Yeah,
Commissioner
yeah.
Reyes.
But I'm not even finished.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were finished.
I'm going to tell you what this whole process went wrong, that you had 2 RFPs and 1 marina, because there was no transparency in that process. Beginning with the actual request for proposal, how it was written. 2, you have one man choosing the people in the committee. You know, in all frankness, what does a manager for a retail establishment place knows about marinas? She might have been, you know, someone good if you wanted people to vote a certain way, if she was in the inside, and she was, but certainly didn't know anything about marinas. And another lady that ended up working for the people she was grading, not soon after she finished grading. I could go on and on and on. So the request for proposal has to go through this commission carefully, so it's not done in such a way that's going to be slanted with anyone already. In other words, that it's not going to have a name already on it of who's going to get it, because that's the easiest thing in the world to do. It's slant a proposal so that basically one person will have the advantage in getting it. Secondly, the people that are going to be in the grading committee have to be utmost professionals in the field. It has to be a transparent process, just like I talked about before with a police chief. And each of us will be the ones naming someone in the committee. It's the only way you're going to find some balance. And we got to establish that they have to be professionals in certain fields. That we have the enough wiggle room to choose one. So I would respectfully request that instead of being here for hours, that we come back sometime in the near future after each of us can sit with the manager, express to him our thoughts, get from him his, and then we come back so we could have a more intelligent discussion at this. And you could hear all the presentations you want for staff. I'll be ready to give you one myself.
Well,
Back from 2001, when I was mayor.
okay, thank you. The Marbella in Miami that you speak about is not a reality in 2020. And you were mayor in 2001, and you had all the blueprints, and I agree with everything you said today, by the way. The intelligent discussion, all the 4 points that you made about how we need to balance, but we had to start somewhere. So the Marbella in Miami, with all due respect, Commissioner, never happened. And it
Well,
went-
first of
well,
all-
I'm not finished because
Go
I didn't
ahead.
interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you.
You don't even know what I
Well, I
had
don't
in
have
mind
to.
when Bay in Miami.
No, but I know, you challenged me to look at your plans, and I will, but I can look at the marinas today in 2020, and none of that came to fruition. So what I'm saying is that we need to do something. This has to be in 2020, there has to be a sense of urgency, not in the near future, not maybe some other day. No one wants to rush to an RFP today, but at some point, we have to make the time commitment to be here and listen to the presentations. Not today, I'm okay with that too, but not in the near future, not in another 10 years, not another 20 years when none of us are here.
No, it's
Because
not,
if you want-
it's not gonna be that
well,
long, believe me.
Well, if we want a Marbella in Miami, which I agree with you, or at least a San Diego in Miami, then we have to begin that process at some point. So the purpose of the discussion item was to have, since we can't have private conversations about it, was to have some sort of public conversation so that I can get a feeling, and all of us can have a feeling, what each one of us is thinking as to where we want to go. What I've seen from my end, since I've been here, on a number of issues, and this one seems to be the most, the poster child for lack of finality, is a years-long process, 5, 6, 7 years, of a fight between different vendors for one marina, and last meeting, I find that nothing happened, and we're back to square one. So the idea for the discussion item was to say, well, what's the will of this commission to move forward to find some finality and to build that Marbella in Miami you speak about, and to actually get it done? Is it an RFP process? Is it they come to us eventually with some unsolicited bid? Is it all these things? But we have to have a time certain that we say, we're going to dedicate the hours and put in the time. It doesn't have to be before Christmas. It could be after Christmas. But it can't be next Christmas. It has to happen soon because the city's going to enter. When are we going to embark in a process of picking and making and building a world-class marina for our city? I don't want to be turned out, which is what could happen here, and you'll be turned out before me in 2 years, right? And still walk away from this job at a late age in my life and there's no marina, and even no shovel has gone in the ground, and no determination has been made by this commission or any future commission. That's my only concern, that we're not moving forward.
I
that we're-
hope you give me the same urgency for low-income housing, that nothing seems to be
Absolutely,
done.
absolutely. I think those are issues.
And you also promised housing,
Absolutely.
so.
I'm waiting for your proposal.
I rather put my effort into that right now, but on what you stated, what I'm stating is that we have to follow a certain process.
I
Not
agree.
today. You come ready to discuss this. You know that this is going to be a long talk.
I'm not ready to
Particularly if
discuss-
I'm going to get into it, I'm going to make sure it's going to be done right.
You just give me the date when you want to do it, but we have to have a date.
We will bring it in February.
February.
We have plenty of time in January to meet with the manager. And then, on that meeting, we could discuss, bring any presentation you want. We will discuss then what we want the manager to do in the process that we want to do it.
Commissioner Reyes.
Yes, let me tell you something. Sometimes I don't know, it's a tendency that many people have. We talk about the same thing, and it sounds like we were talking, that we are expressing different views. all of us want to do something with the marinas. But there's a process, Mr. Carollo says, and everything that Commissioner Carollo, you enumerated, has to be part of what I requested from the city manager to Ms. Casamayor. I want an in-depth analysis, and that way we're going to know how much will or those marinas are producing, what will be they will be producing if instead of given the going rates and the capacity, they are. Can we increase the capacity? How much is needed for them to increase that capacity? As you say, Mr. Carrillo, what additional uses can we have? All of those, the questions, it is what I want to see incorporated in that analysis. From there, from that analysis, we can decide if it warrants to go on an RFP for that marina, or if that marina is working and it's profitable enough, and nothing will be changed by giving it. Or as a matter of fact, we might lose money by making it going into partnership with a private company. But in order to do that, we need numbers, we need an analysis, an in-depth analysis. It is like running. You have to crawl, walk, and run.
Well, I think we've been crawling for 7 years, and actually for 20 years if you look at the class of our marinas today. So I think it's time to begin to at least...
Absolutely, I agree with you.
So let me ask you, you want an analysis, so then the obvious question is, who's going to do the analysis?
Well, that's why we have a...
Right. This is, hold on.
That's what we have a...
What I've asked for is not to get in a prolonged discussion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've been here a year.
I know.
This is the first time you're worrying about the marinas. You've
I've been worried about the marinas
here for a
since I've
long
been watching.
time.
No,
You know
it's not
about
a
them.
question how long you've been here, Commissioner.
I've never heard you get worried so much about
Because
marinas.
I have been here for
before.
1 year. But you talked about you having it since 2001 about having a Marbella in Miami, and we don't have a Marbella in Miami.
Yeah, and we don't have housing. That's the most important thing for me,
For you,
Commissioner.
and for me,
Housing.
for both. The point here,
Why are you showing the same interest in housing?
I'm interested in housing. I'm interested in
Why
everything.
don't you push the city manager on housing
I have
the same way you're pushing him on marinas?
I'm not pushing anyone. What I'm doing is I'm offering my idea after being 1 year here.
Okay, then I'm asking you to table this right now.
I'm gonna table
I don't want to
it.
be here all day on this.
Well, you don't have to be here all
I've
day, but
stated
I have the right
already
to have
the
a discussion
process that I
item.
want to follow.
I have the right.
If you don't want to follow it, that's fine.
Everybody listens to your discussion items. When you have a discussion item, every commissioner here has a right to have a discussion item.
And we
to talk
gave you
about
the
it.
discussion
And
item.
but I'm not
But
finished
you want to
speaking.
force it
I'm not
into
forcing
what
anything.
you
I'm
want
speaking.
now, and you can't do that.
I'm not forcing anything.
Yes,
I have
you are.
I'm not. I have a right to speak on this dais as much as you do and any other commissioner.
Absolutely
When you
you
bring a
do.
discussion item and you go on and on and on.
But you
nobody
don't have
stops
the
you from
right,
speaking.
you
I
don't have the
right.
right to push something
I have a
and
right to
push
discuss.
something
I have a right
without
to
coming to a conclusion.
I have. Oh, really? Really?
Well, what is the end game that you want? Tell me.
No, really? Really? I have no.
Really what?
I have a right to speak as long as I
Go
want to
ahead.
speak, because you do it, right? So everybody
Absolutely.
here, everybody here has a right to address this commission, especially an elected official like me, to talk about an issue that matters to him. Of course, affordable housing matters to me. Of course it does. Marinas matter to me. Murals matter to me. Every issue that I've been.
Then let's
dealing with-
bring up affordable housing next,
We will.
okay?
You can call a special meeting, as I've called 2 of them, remember? I've called 2 special meetings for affordable housing. Everybody has ideas, but nobody's come forward with a plan. I'm trying to come forward with a
Well,
plan.
I come forward with a plan. I gave it to the manager,
That's
the
a
mayor and I
that's an
discussed
issue.
it. The mayor tells me he's as frustrated as I am,
That's
and
a-
nothing is happening.
That's an issue between you and the manager and us and the
No.
manager, and I agree
It's an
with you.
issue for the commission.
But the fact that there's a discussion, you have a number of discussion items today on a charter amendment changes. And so you have, and every commissioner here has a right to have a discussion item and discuss things. My discussion item is on marinas because I think it's a great opportunity to have revenue generators for our city. You could have a discussion item.
No one is saying no
Right.
to you.
So what I want.
What I'm saying to you, Commissioner, is that we table this until February, until each one of us
But I'm not
speak to the manager.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm
Okay.
saying is that what I want, no, I'm not.
Then why do you keep going forward?
Because I have a right to speak. I'm not going forward.
Because you want to keep speaking,
I have
keep
a right.
taking up the
Commissioner, the
meeting.
one that speaks is you. Please. I have a right to speak as much as you do. I'm a commissioner like you are, sir.
Absolutely you
So I
are.
have a right to speak as many times as I want to speak and as long as I want to speak. No one has ever cut you off from speaking, Commissioner.
And I'm not cutting you off.
So
I'm just saying that
I'm
we're not
asking-
getting anywhere in this.
No, well, we are getting
And I
somewhere.
bring it to an end.
If you allow me to finish, I think we're getting somewhere. And we're getting somewhere. It's not to push the issue today. I already said that I agree with your points of view. What we're trying to do is to establish a time frame to find finality for this particular issue. Is it going to be February? Is it going to be at the end of next year? I don't care when it is at the end of the day, but we have to have a time frame in place so that we know who's going to do the study. Is it going to be the same people, an in-house study? Is it going to be an outside study and someone else doing it? Who's going to come to us with what Commissioner Reyes and you have recommended, the 4 points that you pointed out, to come to us with ideas of what needs to be done? It's not just saying, well, it's Christmas and I don't want to do it now. I get that. But we also have to have, say, in the first week of February, let's come back with a study, or let's commission a study so that we know what we're doing. And it may not be an RFP. It may be, that we decide to give it to someone and give another marina to someone else, or the city can run it.
Mr. Diaz-Abreu, you really didn't listen to a word I said.
I did.
You keep wanting to push this RFP like it
Nobody's
was a fire
pushing an
sale.
RFP. I have a different point of view than you do, Commissioner, and I have a right to have that different.
Well, you definitely have a much different point of view than I do,
Absolutely.
and I know why.
And I know why you do too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know why you do too. But we're
Yeah.
not gonna get into that, because you may try to personalize it. I'm not personalizing.
I'm not personalizing
All I'm
anything.
saying is that I disagree with you. And all I'm saying is that I have a right to have a discussion item as much as you do.
Absolutely, no one's saying that.
I don't appreciate being cut
But what
off.
I'm saying is,
I have never cut you off.
as one vote, I am not going to be pushing an RFP in the
Then
way
don't.
that you're doing.
The-
What you're asking for now is for the come back February, so we push the RFP.
That's not what I'm asking for. What I'm asking for is when we come back in February, come back with a study so we can have a conversation about it. If you don't want to have the conversation.
You can't have the studies that you want, and you want the studies so you can push the RFP
No,
right away.
I want a study
If
to
you're
know.
gonna have studies, they have to be done
Right.
in a proper way.
What is that proper way?
Well, I just stated to you,
What is the proper way?
each of us should meet with the city manager, and then we come back in February, and that's where we're gonna have a full-blown discussion of how we're gonna proceed with this.
I have no problem with coming back in February. And we can have a full-blown discussion in February. I still disagree with you that you think that I don't have a right to have a conversation about any of this.
You have a right to have every
Absolutely.
conversation that you
Correct,
want.
like you do.
But
So-
we're not getting anywhere with this. The first thing I stated to you was that we wanted to end this quickly. That's why I gave you a roadmap of what I thought we should do. You don't want to listen to that.
No, I
You
just
want
don't-
the RFP now.
I don't agree with your roadmap, Commissioner. That's why we have to have the conversation. We can't have this conversation in private because we're in the sunshine. We can only have these conversations in public. So when we have, whether it's a study or we come back in February and we talk about what we're going to do down the line, there has to be some
Look, if you want to make a motion, I'm going to make a motion. that
Some finality.
We ask the city manager to meet with each of us on this item, and we bring this item back for a discussion in February. It's a motion.
And I will second that motion the first week of February.
There's a motion, there's been a second. I'd like to open for public comment. Would anyone like to comment on that motion? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any further comment on the dais? We're going to get into other discussions that we are taking on today about COVID, and some of them are marina related. And the role of real estate asset manager is so important.
Yes, it is.
Do you know that we have tenants in our marina who are commercial tenants who have been basically shut down since March, cannot make $1, yet we're still charging them full rack rate. One boat, commercial boat, does dinner tours, hasn't been able to operate at all. One of his captains caught COVID, currently has it, so does his family. Second captain caught COVID, lost the use of his legs. His third captain caught COVID and is dead. And we're still charging him full rack rate, including the surcharge for being able to operate as a tour operator for dinner. And a real estate asset manager has to look at all of our assets, not only from how we develop them, but how we operate them and manage our tenants, our clients. And I really look forward to getting that manager and seeing their vision so that we can weigh in on what we can do with our assets and how to make them the best in the country. So I understand your frustration. I understand your frustration. In the spirit of Christmas, I recommend we move on to the next subject. So there's a motion, there's a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And I would like to see a policy that we can give to our marina tenants that have suffered, over this year.
Commissioner,
Yes, sir.
you could do that now, that the marina is run by the city. That's what we gotta calculate into everything. But if you have someone in the private sector running it, you won't ever have that opportunity or option.
Of course.
And also, that is why I referred myself that we also have the duty of taking care of our residents and people that do business with us like these people.
I mean, it's not much. Some of these boats we charge them a couple $1,000 a month.
And they've been, some of them that gone from family to
They're
generation
very
to
small
generation.
family operations,
That's right.
and I think we only have maybe 3 or 4 dinner operator companies. We should be really taking care of them. And so, well, we can take that offline, and I look forward to the manager's recommendations on that. All in favor? I think we did. We did vote, yes. So we're ready, and thank you very much. I do understand the frustration. So, all of the land use attorneys who are here charging their clients by the hour would like to see us talk forever and ever, but we will move into the PZ agenda at this point, and then we will finish up with the budget status at the end, and we will be done for the day and say Merry Christmas to all. Yes, Mr. Clerk.
In the pocket item, sir.
Of course, we have a few pocket items to address
I
as well.
think we have one more from myself.
We have 6
Mayor, I
pocket
believe,
items.
has some. I don't know if Commissioner Diaz-Portilla has any left.
We have 6 pocket items. So I'd like to take up all of the PZ items. If you could read the ordinances into the record, Mr. Min. That'll give us a moment to relieve ourselves. Fortunately, there are speakers throughout the building. If you could read all of the ordinances for the planning zoning agenda, remaining planning zoning agenda, please.
Mr. Hannon, could you confirm which items are deferred, so I don't have to read them?
Yes, PZ 1 was deferred. PZ 11 and 12 were continued, and PZ 15 was deferred. Everything else is in play.
I believe 11 and 12 were deferred to April 22nd,
I'm sorry, yes, my apologies. Deferred to April 22nd, thank you.
and then 15 as well.
Okay, PZ 2 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending ordinance number 13114, the zoning ordinance of the city of Miami, Florida, as amended by amending Article 7, Section 7.2, titled Nonconformity, Structures, Uses, Lots, Site Improvements, and Signs, to provide for reestablishment of specific purpose, design structures that are locally designated historic sites or contributing structures in a historic district, making findings contain a celebrity clause and providing for an immediate effective date. There was a substitution handed out for that item. PZ 3 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments amending the zoning atlas of ordinance number 13114. The zoning ordinance of the city of Miami, Florida, is amended by changing the zoning classification from T68L, Urban Core Transit Zone Limited, to T680, Urban Core Transit Zone Open, for the properties generally located at 615 Northwest 4th Avenue, 537 Northwest 4th Avenue, 365 Northwest 6th Street, 353 Northwest 6th Street, 343 Northwest 6th Street, 335 Northwest 6th Street, 348 Northwest 6th Street, 330 Northwest 6th Street, 350 Northwest 6th Street, 358 Northwest 6th Street, 364 Northwest 6th Street, 531 Northwest 3rd Court, 540 Northwest 3rd Court, 534 Northwest 3rd Court, 530 Northwest 3rd Court, and 590 Northwest 3rd Court, Miami, Florida, all is more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached and incorporated. Making findings containing a severity clause and providing for an effective date. PZ 4 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments amending ordinance number 10544 as amended to the future land use map of the Miami Comprehensive Neighborhood Plan pursuant to small-scale amendment procedures subject to section 163.3187 Florida statutes. By changing the future land use designation from single-family residential to restricted commercial, of the acres described herein of real property located at approximately 4214 Southwest 3rd Street, Miami, Florida, as more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached and incorporated, making findings and providing for an effective date. PZ 5 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments amending the zoning atlas of ordinance number 13114 as amended by changing the zoning classification from T3R, Suburban Transit Zone Restricted, to T4L, General Urban Transit Zone Limited, for the property located at approximately 4214 Southwest 3rd Street, Miami, Florida, as more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached and incorporated, further accepting a voluntary covenant attached and incorporated as Exhibit B, making findings containing a severity clause and providing for an effective date. PZ 6 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments amending ordinance number 10544 as amended the future land use map of the Miami Comprehensive Neighborhood Plan pursuant to small-scale amendment procedures subject to Section 163.3187 Florida statutes by changing the future land use destination from low-density restricted commercial to medium-density restricted commercial of the of the 0.38 plus or minus acres of real property located at approximately 2824 and 2828 Southwest 37th Avenue, Miami, Florida, is more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached and incorporated, making a finding contained in summary clause and provided for an effective date. PZ7 is the ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments amending the zoning atlas of ordinance number 13114. The zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida is amended by changing the zoning classification from T4L, General Urban Transit Zone Limited, T50, Urban Center Transit Zone Open, of the properties located at approximately 2824 and 2828 Southwest 37th Avenue, Miami, Florida, as more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached and incorporated, further accepting the voluntary covenant in substantially the form attached and incorporated in Exhibit B, making findings contained in separate clause and providing for an effective date. PZ8 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending ordinance number 13114. The zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida is amended specifically by amending Article 1, Section 1.1, titled Definitions of Building Function Uses, to modify the definition of industrial, amending Article 3, Section 3.11, titled Waterfront Standards, to add lodging as a use considered for the design standards, amending Article 4, Table 3, titled Building Function Uses, to modify regulations for density and uses for the district zone regarding lodging uses, amending Article 4, Table 4, titled Density, Intensity, and Parking, to provide regulations for density, intensity, and parking to address lodging uses within the D2 industrial and D3 waterfront industrial transit zones, amending Article 6, Section 6.1, titled Intent and Exclusions, to provide supplementary regulations for the D1 workplace and D2 industrial and D3 waterfront industrial transit zones in Table 13, making findings contained in a summary clause and provided for an effective date. PZ9 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending ordinance number 13114. The zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida is amended more specifically by amending Article 7, Section 7.1.2.8, titled Amendment to Miami 21 Code, to exempt rezonings of properties by the City of Miami to CS, Civic Space Transit Zones, or T1 Natural Transit Zones from minimum size and frontage requirements, making findings contained in separate clause and providing an effective date. PZ10 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending ordinance number 13114. The zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida is amended specifically by amending Article 6, Table 13, titled Supplements of Regulations, to allow for and establish conditions for community support facilities, specifically assisted living facilities in the D1 workplace transit zone, subject to approval by warrant, making findings contained in separate clause and providing for an effective date. PZ 13 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments amending Appendix J, Wynwood NRD1, Neighborhood Revitalization District of Ordinance Number 13114. The zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida is amended more specifically by amending Section 2.1, titled Purpose and Intent, Article 3, titled General to Zones, Section 4, Table 2, titled Table 2, T5, Urban Center Zone, and Table 2, T6, Urban Core Zone. Article 5, Table Specific to Zones, Article 9, titled Landscape Requirements, Article 10, titled Sign Regulations, and Section 8, titled Street Master Plan, to modify standards for parking for developments less than 10,000 square feet, allowing parking in mezzanine levels, and the establishment of the Wynwood Streetscape Master Plan within the NRD1 boundaries, further amending Section 3.3, titled Lots and Frontages, to establish a program to allow lot assemblages exceeding maximum lot area with public benefit contributions, further amending Section 3.5, titled Wynwood Transfer of Development Rights Program, to establish a program to allow unused density throughout the NRD1 boundary to be transferred for the benefit of affordable workforce housing, civic open space, and legacy uses, the ability to pay into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to obtain additional density, alignment of the affordable workforce housing benefit to the Miami 21 Code standards, and a calibrated attainable mixed income program, contained a salary clause and provided for an effective date. PZ 14 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending ordinance number 13114. The zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida is amended more specifically by amending Article 1, Section 1.2, titled Definitions of Terms, Article 1, Section 1.4, titled Definitions of Landscape Requirements, Article 3, Section 3.12, titled Design Guidelines, Neighborhood Conservation Districts and Neighborhood Revitalization Districts, Article 3, Section 3.6.10, titled Off-Street Parking, Bicycle Parking Requirements, Article 4, Table 4, titled Density, Intensity, and Parking, and Article 4, Table 7, titled Civic Space Types, to provide for future opportunities for streetscape enhancements throughout the City of Miami, making findings contained in a summary clause and providing for an effective date. Is that it? And I believe PCC.
Mr. City Attorney, I believe PZ 16?
Okay, PZ 16, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending ordinance number 10544 is amended. The Miami Comprehensive Neighborhood Plan pursuant to expedited state review procedures established in Section 163.314 Florida statutes by adding two policies to the future land use element, amending the interpretation of the 2020 future land use map for industrial land use to allow lodging uses on lands within the City of Miami designated as industrial, making findings contained in the summary clause and providing for an effective date. Thank you,
Barnaby,
Mr. Chair.
did you read the substitution for PZ2?
The title or the entire?
I believe that the city attorney had submitted a substitution.
Yes, I modified the title that I read into the record to
that's in
incorporate
the
that.
record.
It basically removes the residential uses.
Thank you very much. So in that case, let's take up PZ2, zoning text nonconforming uses and structures. Is there a motion on PZ2? Is there any further discussion on the dais? Any questions? I'm sorry? Legally, we can group planning and zoning items. Let's just take this one first. There's a motion, there's a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
As amended.
As amended, yes, with the, thank you. So the remaining ones are the rezoning of PZ3, PZ4 and PZ5 is Southwest 3rd Street, PZ6 and 7 is 37th Avenue. We have a covenant recorded on that one, I believe. That's already been submitted and does not need to be entered into the record at this point. That was submitted on first reading, am I correct, Jeremy?
Yes, and there were also modifications that have been made and entered into the record, so it's part of this.
And
record.
those are in the record captured from first, so we don't need a presentation on that. PZ 8 and 9, or 8 is lodging and district zones, 9 is CS and T1, PZ 10, community support facilities, PZ 13 is the NRD1, the Wynwood Streetscape Master Plan, PZ 14, the zoning and streetscape master plan for zoning text, and the final one, PZ 16, is the industrial flume interpretation, MCNP. Is there a motion for all of those?
I'll second it.
It is a Merry Christmas. There's been a motion by Commissioner Reyes,
Second.
second by Commissioner Diaz de la Portilla. Is there any further discussion on those planning zoning items? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all for coming. That was easy. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone.
All
Merry
right.
Christmas, everyone.
We have remaining the budget discussion. There's a budget status of 20 budget, and then the remaining 5 pocket items. So could we get the budget? Just status of the fiscal year 20, current fiscal year 21 proposed budgets. And if you need some time to bring someone out for that, we can move into the pockets. All right, we'll take up the pocket items. The remaining pocket items are PI2, the curfew. Let's take that one last. PI3 is the TCO fee waiver. PI4 is the rental assistance program. PI5 is the mortgage assistance program. And PI6 is the boys and girls fireworks issue. Can I get a motion for PIs 3, 4, 5, and 6?
So
Chair?
moved. So moved.
Chair, PI3 is an emergency ordinance, so we will need to read the title twice and vote on it twice. I would
Oh,
request.
that's right, it is an ordinance, and the commissioner wanted it.
Yes.
Barnaby, could you take care of that, please?
Yes, it's an emergency ordinance by a 4/5 affirmative vote of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 10, Article 1 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended entitled Buildings in General, providing for definitions, exemptions from certain temporary certification of occupancy fees for income-restricted development units, and providing for an effective date.
Do you need to read it again?
Chair, so you would vote now, and we'll have another reading and then a second vote for the emergency ordinance.
Thank you very much. So the batch it's already been moved first and seconded, and this is just for the first reading of that particular ordinance. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
And I'm
opposed?
sorry, Chair, who was the mover and seconder?
I already forgotten.
Carolla and me.
Let's do it again. Is there a motion for PI 3,
So moved.
4, 5, and 6? Commissioner Watson, Commissioner Diaz-La Portilla, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Barnaby, if you could read that ordinance once again,
Yes,
please.
sir. It's an emergency ordinance by a 4/5 affirmative vote of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 10, Article 1 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended, titled Buildings in General, providing for definitions, exemption from certain temporary certification of occupancy fees for income-restricted development units,
Voted.
and providing for an immediate effective date.
Thank you. Is there a motion on that?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Watson, seconded by Commissioner Reyes. Any further discussion?
Yes. I just want to say thank you, commissioners. 45 families will enjoy a very Merry Christmas as a result of our actions. It's not a drop in the bucket. It's a lot of people out there that needs help, and we've done and taken one more step to do that. I also want to acknowledge the manager, his staff, the building department, and the Southeast Overtown Park West CRA for all of their efforts in spending time coming up with this legislation. Thank you very much.
You're moving like a
Very
pro.
welcome, sir.
You're moving like a pro. And did we already vote? We voted on that. Yes, thank
No, we
you.
voted on
We gotta
first
vote on
reading.
this one, second
Let's vote on
reading.
Second reading, thank you. It's getting late. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner Carollo had a question on CA 12. We actually did already pass CA 12. Did you get clarification from the clerk?
Yes, if I could bring CA 12 back, because
This is the state lobbying pool. There's a motion for reconsideration,
I'll second that motion.
seconded by Commissioner Diaz-Portilla. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. CA 12, Commissioner Carollo, you'd like to discuss? Your microphone.
Can hear you, Commissioner.
thank you. 11 firms, it's a huge amount of firms to have. I've never, ever in the history of the city have had a pool of 11 firms. Now, Mr. Assistant City Managers, how much were we paying for lobbyists before, and what was approved for lobbyists in the fiscal year budget that we had approved?
The current fiscal year budget, 2021, I believe we have $500,000 allocated for lobbying services.
But is this in this motion, or was that from before that it was allocated? Because
That's what was budgeted in the 2021 budget.
what was budgeted before? The year before?
Give me a moment to verify with Mr. Michelle.
But perhaps to address his concern, none of these are being retained, if I'm correct, and there is no upfront cost. They will be used as needed for their specialty, in your opinion.
Yeah,
Correct?
but here's the problem that we're running into. We're given to a manager the rights that we have to choose firms. And no city commission should give those rights up. At the same time, I'm trying to establish how we came about with the $500,000, because the previous year, if I remember correctly, we weren't up to that much.
I believe you're correct, but again, allow me to verify to see what the number was for the previous fiscal year, sir.
Well, please do. What I think is a much more correct way of doing it, and frankly, it's the way that in most governmental local bodies it's done. Commissioners bring up different lobbying firms.
Yeah.
And it's the commission that decides from the pool what to pick. No one ever came to me to discuss any of these firms. How do I know how this manager or future manager is going to do this? It's a 5-year contract, two-year extension, so in essence, it could be a 9-year contract. Since I've been around, I've never seen a 5-year contract be given so a manager can pick and choose as he likes. Certainly not from such a huge pool of individuals to pick from.
Yeah.
You're recognized.
My understanding is that this is not picking anyone. My understanding is this is simply, these are all the people that applied, that we responded to the RFP. All 11 firms that responded to RFP were qualified from 1 to 11. The manager is supposed to come back to us with the 3 or 4 that he recommends in the next commission meeting. All we're doing today, my understanding, as the manager explained to me, was that we're simply saying they're all qualified, they're all still in the mix, but we'll come back to the commission to decide which of the 3 or 4 firms are picked.
Yeah, but
And my understanding is that if we don't agree, we're going to have our input into that, right? We're going to say, well, we don't, because they're all in the mix, right? So they're all eligible for us to come to them and say, we'll pick manager, we don't agree with the third one, the fourth one, we want to pick this one. As long as we keep them all in the mix. And the reason I think why I didn't want to defer it, but I don't care if we do, is because we have commission meetings in Tallahassee, committee meetings in Tallahassee on January 11th.
Well, we got people right now that we could just extend,
No, their contracts have run out. So we have no one,
we could extend that contract.
we can, yeah, there's no problem with that. We can do that too.
Because, look, frankly, I can't tell you how many times in the past in this commission, even while I was manager at Doral, the same thing would happen. That was always what would happen. Oh, we can because we're in session. And this is one right this commission has
Well, I
that
agree
we
with you.
should not give up. And what I would suggest is let the manager suggest to us
Agreed.
whoever he would like, but we will put up each of us a name. They might be the ones the manager chooses from, they might not be. And then we sit back, we'll discuss it, they can make a presentation to us, and we'll choose how many firms we should need. And the
Right.
question here is, are we looking for $500,000? We should have so much money that we could have lobbies in Washington too, not just Tallahassee. My question is, do we need that much money? And are we going to get our money's worth out of it? And that's what I want to make sure of.
Before I
agree.
recognize, I just want to make a,
It's just a quick point to that, because it's exactly to his point. The idea why we would qualify all of them is precisely for that reason, that when the manager comes back at the next commission meeting with 4 names, we can say, each one of us, wait a minute, there's another qualified respondent here that we want better than this one. We can go back and forth with him. If we only qualify, if we wait for him to come with 4, this is what we recommend. The debate there is about those 4. That's the reason why it's being done today. The idea was, that what the conversation I had with him, because this is kind of, I had some input into this, obviously, because I know Tallahassee, and I know how ineffective the city of Miami has been in Tallahassee for so many years, including last year, which I think we got like $500,000, is that we needed a
Well,
stronger.
the Colonel was doing
just,
the lobbying.
I
Yeah,
need
I'm
to
sorry.
stop for just a second to get legal clarification, because I read CA 12 completely different than the way you're explaining it. And
Okay.
in my briefing, there was no
briefing was
coming back
different.
to us. So the way I read CA 12, and if the city attorney could help clarify, 11 responded to the RFQ, and there was a review team appointed by the city manager. Section 2, the proposal was received from various pre-qualified firms on an as-needed basis for the office of the city manager for an initial period of 5 years with an option to renew for 2 additional years are accepted. So that, we're basically giving all 11 a contract to work with us from here forward on an as-needed basis by the city manager. I don't see anywhere in here where anyone's coming back to us for further selection.
Well, with $500,000, you could sure go that road.
And it's what Commissioner Arroyo said, he would be picking from this level. That's what I was told.
My
We don't
understanding
need
was
that many people.
We have a procurement director who's here to clarify for us exactly how this process
Good
is meant to
afternoon, Commissioners. Annie Perez, Procurement Director. Just a point of clarification. We do have language in the solicitation that inclusion in the pool doesn't mean that they're going to get work.
Right.
So basically, it's just establishing a pool of qualified vendors, and then we can always add to the pool more vendors if we like. It's an open pool, but it doesn't mean that they're all going to get work.
So the question,
It's not guaranteed.
But the question to clarify between these 2 points of view on this item, who makes the decision of which firm is actually hired for what item is needed to be lobbied for?
So if we look at the work order assignment process, it does say, the city reserves the right through the city manager designee to assign work on individual projects to any pre-qualified firm as may be deemed in the city's best interest.
Not us.
So the Commissioner Correa is right that in this vote, we now abdicate the decision-making ability to the manager for
Right,
the
which-
actual selection and
Which is not
appointment.
what I want to do. What I want to do, then I stand corrected, what I want to do is I want him to come, I just started to just give him the ability to pick between these 11 firms. He comes back to us with 4 that he recommends, and we, the city commission, votes for it.
I'd like to do the following.
Hold on a second.
We could
I just
keep-
want to recognize Commissioner Reyes, because he's
Sure,
always very patient.
absolutely.
Déjame hablar al viejo de vez en cuando. No, what I want to know is, because what I do understood right now is that these people are going to be on a pool. and they are going to be picked according to the project, or we going to pick a lobbying team that is going to be representing us in Tallahassee or at the state, federal level for all the projects that we have, because this is going to be, okay, please, and I mean, educate me. If we have 11 people and we have 11 projects, can the city manager pick 11 different teams?
If he wanted to, he could.
If he wanted to.
I am
so-
totally
or
against
he-
that.
Or he could say, out of the 11,
totally
5
against
can
that.
handle all the.
Shall we defer the item?
I would like to defer this item, and if need be, for representation up in Tallahassee. In fact, if you look at it, you know, we're still in December, but if we need representation, we could keep the people in place until we decide differently, the ones we have. And this could be deferred for a later time in January or early February. And, you know, I would suggest the manager sits with each of us and discusses it personally. I'm sure he'll be back in good shape and spirits, you know, shortly. But, you know, we're in the holiday season, so I'm sure that
I would like also to include that those people that are picked, they will be evaluated each year according to their success and what they have done.
Sure.
There should have to be some sort of measure if they are affected or they are not.
Yeah. The
You
other
see-
thing that I would like from the administration is if they could send each of us how much money has been spent in lobbying in the last 3 years. Tallahassee, and if we paid for any up in DC.
Well, that's the one I wanted to bring up, because this is, I wouldn't call it a thorough process, but this is a big process aimed at state lobbying, and I'm not seeing anything at the federal, and we really need help
Yeah.
in the federal situation. So whatever process we come back with for selection and activation at the state level, I'd like to see that mirrored on the federal level as well.
Okay. Well,
I know you're already working on it.
let
Thank
me
you.
say this, Chair. We might need to look at some different people for DC, because you might be real good in Tallahassee, but that doesn't
Correct.
mean you're going to be effective in Washington.
Correct.
So,
And I just want to
Right.
say, just right quick, Mr. Chair, to Commissioner Diaz-de-la Portia's point, we should have a time certain, because clearly, in a lot of instances, these folks need to be on the ground, because committees, January 11th, so we shouldn't disadvantage the people we're trying to pick. So what Commissioner Carollo wants, we should get that as quickly as possible, so that in our first meeting, we can have a decision, so they can get going, okay?
If I can just, if I may.
You're recognized.
In the county, they had 2 pools, separate, state lobbying and federal lobbying. Yes.
yeah, that's
And
If it's
why-
worth anything.
And why didn't we do that already?
We were just asked for state lobbying for the moment.
Yeah, and
I've been talking
frankly-
about national lobbying for
Frankly,
a long time.
to me, it's a pretty hefty amount, $500,000, just for state lobbying.
Yep.
It's heavy. So please, send me the amounts we were spending, because I don't remember that
Sir,
it
yes,
was that
sir.
much.
We'll give you the last 3 years' actuals for lobbying.
Thank you.
If we can break it out to federal and state as well, we'll do so.
Well, no,
And-
you could break it up if
Yeah,
you want
and-
to, for federal and
and-
state, because they're
and-
two
and-
different animals.
And last year's budgeted amount for lobbying was 125,000.
That's what I remember. That's what we had last year. So we had a big jump, 375,000.
When would you like to defer this to?
Well, what do you all suggest?
How much time do you need, Mr. Casamayor, to bring us a process to?
December is really shot. I mean, and we're all working hard and getting stuff out, so
If there's no significant change to the item, just no material change to the item, we could probably get back to you on the 14th if you like, but if you want to be safe, the 28th. The thing is, I don't know, how quickly we would need a team on the ground in Tallahassee to begin lobbying for the city.
Well, let's try to take it up on January 14th, but I think what
I'll
you're hearing
I'll
is there
defer
will
to
be a
the chair.
change to the process.
yeah, I'll defer to the chair on that. But the manager needs to sit with each of us and discuss it. And again, Fernando, the 500,000, was this in the last budget that we approved?
Yes, sir. The 500,000 is the 2021 budgeted number that was approved by this commission in September.
Okay, well, this is the problem that you have when you don't have line item budgets.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that was lost somewhere in one of Chris's pockets. Okay?
There's a motion to defer. Is there a second?
I second that.
Seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Thank you and happy holidays.
Thank you. I was about to say, the commission giveth, the commission taketh away. You made about a dozen lobbyists really happy an hour ago, and you made about a dozen lobbyists upset just now.
Commission giveth, take it.
Ho, ho, ho.
Thank you. So we only have the budget item left as well as the curfew issue left. So can we,
I can give you the.
what am I missing, Mr. Clerk?
And the mayor's pocket items and your pocket item.
I thought we passed all those in batch.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have one
Wait.
that was left.
Yes, we have, all we have is Commissioner Carollo's pocket item left. Can I get the budget discuss?
I'll
No,
give
no,
you,
Chair, and I'm sorry, Chair, I do apologize for interrupting. No, the reason why we didn't vote on yours, Commissioner Carollo's, and the mayor's is because Commissioner Watson's was an emergency ordinance, so we pulled that
We
first.
didn't
No, no,
pull
no,
it, I
that's not what
apologize.
happened.
Let
That's
me
not
just
what
clarify. We actually batched his first reading with all the others, and then we took the second reading separately. Can that be captured that way, or do you need another vote?
I would prefer, for the record, for the emergency ordinance just to have been voted on by itself, and then we can batch the other resolutions, because that was an emergency ordinance. I would prefer to have the vote for specifically for that item, and then we can batch the other remaining pocket items with one vote.
So then then we'd have to reconsider all of PZ2
Yes.
and PI2, sorry, PI 3, 4, 5, and 6. We would need to reconsider.
Because again, it's, you were on the second vote for the emergency ordinance is when you included the other pocket
No,
items?
no.
The other way around.
The other way around. So we batched PI 3, 4, 5, and 6 on a single vote, which included the first reading of the ordinance, and then we took up the second. We were all clear on what we intended to do, but if you preferred a different way from a procedural perspective, we can reconsider it. It's not a problem.
We'll go with what you went with.
I think it's fine.
I understand.
So it all got approved, first and second reading. Emergency was very well captured, that this is a special reason for this in the whereas clauses. I apologize, I wasn't more clear with what we were doing, but the intention of the body was to batch all of them.
In the future, though, if you wouldn't mind, emergency ordinance is
Emergency orders,
standalone.
standalone. You've
Yes.
got my word. So, Mr. Casamayor, you're going to give us the budget.
yes, sir. This is a very easy, quick discussion. We have 1 month of actuals in the books. Typically, at this time of year, it's very, very difficult to predict and project any information moving forward other than what was budgeted because it's only 1 month. And the month of October is typically a slow month when it comes to any revenues that are collected. So the budget update I can give you is that at the moment, we are still projecting to come on with, in budget for this fiscal year.
Thank you. Any questions?
Apparently, some of our budget people or past budget people, every month of the year was a hard budget, was a hard month to predict what was coming into the future. But, I won't say anything other than that. I just hope we pick a sharp budget director.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We'll close that item, and we'll take up PI2, a pocket reso of Commissioner Carollo, directing the manager to enforce face mask distancing and the midnight curfew that is in place with the county. Commissioner Carollo, you have the floor.
Thank you. This is rescinding resolutions R-20-0358 and R-20-0326 passed on October the 8th and October the 22nd, 2020, directing the manager to cease and desist enforcement of the county's curfew and directing the manager to begin enforcement of the county curfew and mass orders to ensure ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the community.
You have a motion?
That's a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes, second.
Seconded by Commissioner Watson. Discussion. So I think this is worthy of a little discussion, because this will affect businesses, people's lives, and of course, safety is paramount, and the surge is happening.
Can we read into the record the letter from Director Carlos Migoya?
Goya?
I thought I had it here.
I don't have
I
it.
apologize.
I did receive a call from him, and I detected the urgency in his voice.
Here,
I
here.
did receive a. That we were having, there was the percentage of people that had been contaminated from all the people that were tested was reaching 10%. And that was to him, was the most dangerous percentage, because that will require, and he was afraid that it was going to require a number of hospitalization, many people, the demand for beds in the hospitals. And he said, it is not that we don't have the beds, but we don't have the personnel. And as we did before, when we have the surge, we could bring personnel from other areas of the country. But given the fact that the whole country is in a surge, there is not personnel available. And what he was, and I told him, and I asked him, well, what I think that if we try to enforce all of this, is if the percentage reaches 10 or is close to 10, he said yes. That is what that was the information, and I had 2 calls with him, you see?
Yep.
And I don't know if we have 10% yet, or if we should, that resolution, we can say, okay, as that will be effective at the moment that we reach 10%.
Well, the idea was that he wanted to make sure we didn't hit the 10%, I believe. I'll read what he sent, so at least we have it in the record. Dear Commissioner Carollo, and I'm sure he sent the same one to each of us. One of our strengths during the COVID-19 pandemic has been the commitment of leaders at all levels to cooperate and discuss our mitigation efforts with open minds and a shared goal of protecting our community. Jackson Health System has treated nearly 4,000 COVID-19 patients in our hospitals and provided outpatient test results to an additional 6,000 infected people. With winter upon us, the data is heading the wrong direction. Increased positivity, increased hospital admissions, increased demand for critical care beds. I understand the Miami City Commission will discuss this week whether to enforce Miami-Dade County's temporary midnight curfew. This is, of course, a policy decision, and our organization would never seek to interfere with your deliberations. As the largest provider of hospital care in the city and the institution responsible for providing vaccination to all of Miami-Dade hospital system healthcare workers later this month, we felt responsible for providing context. The evidence for a curfew's impact is not necessarily as strong as the evidence for mask wearing, physical distancing, and proper hand hygiene. In our community, however, well-enforced curfews earlier this year did coincide with declines in the key measures of COVID-19 spread. Moreover, Miami remains the cultural heart of South Florida, attracting people from all over our region to its restaurants, museums, and nightlife. A countrywide curfew that is not enforced in Miami will almost by definition, have implications far beyond the city limits. Late-night clubgoers will return to their homes in other municipalities across Miami-Dade and Broward. Our healthcare teams will do everything in our power to treat the sick and prevent the spread, and we will proudly work within whatever guidelines are set by our elected leaders at every level. Thank you for considering this input before making your decision, and please do not hesitate to contact me if any of our clinical experts can assist your work. Sincerely, Carlos A. Migoya, President and Chief Executive Officer. It's a very professional, polite, politically correct letter. I think...
Urgent.
Yeah, well, the urgency is there. And today, we not only surpassed 250,000, but over 251,000 confirmed cases. Probably unconfirmed of people that didn't report it or didn't even know they had it. You probably have at least an equal number. We're just a hair away from reaching 4,000 deaths in Miami-Dade. We were going upwards closer to an inch and up to 9% from what I read today. So look, we don't want to in any way go back to what happened in mid-March, that we closed down everything. The last thing we want to do is close. We want to open. But at the same time, we have had, I would say, over 99% of our business that have been complying with all the guidelines and extra expenses that we placed upon them. I truly believe that if we let the few businesses that are not going to comply late at night, particularly between the hours of midnight and 5 in the morning, with having people on top of people, no mask, no one is checking, and they just care about, frankly, selling more alcohol. That's going to keep that level higher, and it's going to go even higher, because it's impossible when you have in confined spaces people without masks, no social distancing, being on top of each other. They're going to get sick, and then they're going to go and spread it to whoever they live with. If they have parents, if they have grandparents, they're going to get it. And this is going to go out of control. And it's not fair to the 99+% of the business are abiding by everything we've asked of them, for them to also have to suffer in whatever we might have to consider. But most of all, it's not fair to anyone to get COVID. We certainly don't want to see more death. This is a health and safety issue, a real health and safety issue. It's not about the dollars anymore, just for a few. But I just think that we have to take a decision that maybe those few are not going to be able to make the money that they were used to by being open that late at night, for the sake of the vast majority to be able to stay open, and we don't have to consider any other kind of shutdowns or even a lower curfew than midnight.
Thank you.
That's
Commissioner
my
Reyes.
opinion.
I just read, today it went from 7.69, the positivity rate, to 8.55. We're very close to 10%.
It's up.
It's up going. But I have a question. Is it the hour of the night that people are out, or is it the lack of wearing the mask, or enforcing the mask, and enforcing the precautions that they have to take? You see, because we would say, okay, you have to be by 12 o'clock you have to close. But from 8 to 12, everybody is having a good time. There is no mask wearing, and you can do whatever. we're not doing anything wrong.
You're right in that also, absolutely correct.
Exactly. We're not doing it. I mean, if we're gonna do it, we have to enforce the mask, and we have to enforce the people taking care of themselves. The time, okay, we can say 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, whatever, but it is taking the precautions. Taking the precautions is what really it is important.
And Migoya mentioned that here. It's the most important thing. And it's not about a curfew, because a curfew, by itself, I agree, there's no scientific evidence that it stops anything. But there is scientific evidence that if you're in a crowded place where people are drinking, where people have no mask, they're on top of each other, that you're at a heck of risk.
Yes, you are.
They're you know, and
Yes,
those are facts. So,
But
just like there is scientific evidence that, you know, if it's late at night, you're drinking, and especially in the places, it's not like you go to a restaurant or a place that has sufficient food, that at least you could balance what you drink with food. But if you're drinking and drinking, you know, you're going to get happy, you're going to get louder. If there's music, you'll get louder, even louder. And the louder you get, the more you're able to spread the virus, if indeed you are infected.
What I would like to see is that we go to those places and we enforce the protection measures.
That is, you know, hand in hand what this goes with, enforcement. Because, and I'm going to say to you more, that I'm very concerned about this also. And that, you know, the former FOP president go up on YouTube again and throw another one, you know. But please, you know, don't do it in front of your garbage cans at home when you put those YouTube ads. It don't look good. I don't know who's running the task force that we have, or who's guiding them where to go, whatever. They should be going everywhere, all the key nights of the week. But I've had complaints from your district, one from my district, that people are getting hit, they feel, at least they tell me that, unjustly by the task force, and that others right next to them, because they've hired a police officer, you know, they don't go there, they don't check him. I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what I'm being told, and you know, that's also a concern. So we need to make sure the manager, through the manager, that we have some senior people in these task forces, and as Commissioner Reyes said, and it's our intention, that they hit all the main thoroughfares in the city, particularly on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings, where all the action happens.
Thank you. I have a couple questions, and as I said, we will prioritize health every time. We're very lucky at this point to have a good relationship with the county, the new mayor. We've been talking regularly, she and I, on the phone about this issue. She invited me the mayor, to a very large press conference the other day on the We Can, We Will campaign that they're starting. And the whole goal is to be unified as a county, with all the cities standing together on policies. And you can interpret We Can, We Will in a few ways, because the governor has told us what we can't do. And we believe we have some home rule powers to do what we believe is right. And we've weighed this very thoughtfully, whether curfew or no curfew. So if we move forward with the curfew, I'm very happy that we're at the table with the county. And I've asked for a couple things, because there is not exactly, to my understanding, a metric that our businesses can look forward and say, all right, when positivity gets down to a certain number, here's what we're going to open up. And when positivity gets up to a certain number, here's what we're going to shut down further. I would love to give, because business can thrive with predictability. They cannot survive unpredictability. And I would never leave them open, unfettered, at the risk of our health, but I want to give them a light at the end of the tunnel that they can invest in. Because that helps them staff, that helps them order things, and that's very important.
I think that we should place a threshold
It,
that says as soon as the positivity rate goes below, let's say 7% or 6%, this is what we look.
as a gesture of goodwill,
That's right.
I would probably stand with Commissioner Carollo in simply passing this to stand with the county and send the right message to the entire country at this moment and to help our residents be safe, but
Yes.
really encourage them to create this metric
But-
that is not in place yet.
But we should, in order to, give our businesses,
The minute it goes below 5%.
or 5% or 6%, whatever.
That's really the number, below 5%.
You see, that as soon as it go to, I would say 6% or something like that, 6%. It start going down and reach 6%, then we start relaxing it.
The 6 is
Tip-
still,
a little bit, and then we'll relax it all the way if we get to 5. Okay? But that encourages the businesses to say, yeah, listen, let's wear the mask, let's do this, let's.
Would you like to amend your item?
I have no problem amending it to bring in a number at it. Would you take 5.5%?
5.5%.
Okay, 5.5%.
So meaning that we would be following the county's curfew, but that once it gets down to 5.5%,
Yeah.
we would allow businesses, we would lift the curfew. Is that what
We
you're
would lift
saying?
the 12 PM curfew.
Okay, I'm,
I think that makes sense and encourages the businesses to take care or enforce the mask and enforce everything.
if that's the will of this body, I'm trying to show goodwill to the county that we are standing with them, especially
also-
Carlos Migoya, who is.
Truly, I could go either way on it, because 5.5 is close enough. What I understood is that once it's below 5, it's fine, but once it started reaching 5 is when, you start getting concerned. That's why I was trying to get it just before 5. But I'll stand with whatever number this commission wants to put.
5.5, we broke the melon.
So there's,
Partimos el melón a la mitad.
you were the mover and the seconder, correct?
Yes.
So there's been an amendment, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Carrillo moved, seconded by Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
Commissioner Watson, there's a proposed amendment to not enforce the curfew once we get down to 5.5%. Would that be acceptable to you? The motion is to enforce the curfew along with the county, but if we get down to 5.5%, we would lift it. Mover and seconder accepts.
I have one question before you
Yes,
vote,
sir.
I'm sorry. Is that a daily rate, or is it a rolling
No,
average
it's the
of several
2-week average.
days?
The 2-week
Sorry?
average.
It's the 2-week, 14-day average.
2-week average. Yeah, you
Um,
can't base it on daily.
All right, and we're about to have a Christmas tree lighting in 5 minutes, so I'm going to try to bring this to a close if we can. I've heard word from the mayor at 6 o'clock, the Christmas tree out front is being lit, with or without us, so we're going to try to wrap this up. But I have 2 more questions about this issue. One, we do not have any business assistance for those who will be shut down by this. And I know it's easy to demonize nightclubs, bars, and things like that, but I really want you to think about the people who work in them, who will suffer for this.
Substantial number of people.
Yes, and so
The county has about 14 million that they're putting out, and they can't get enough people to apply. It's a big pot they could go to.
So I've asked if there is any of that remaining funding that can apply toward this type of business. At this point, it's not clear to me. But I'd like to see us,
We should direct it to those businesses.
if there is, as you're applying, if there is a way to assist businesses that our policies directly affect, that shut down, and get that money not only to those businesses, but to their employees,
That's a good
we'd love to see that
It's
enacted.
not our policy.
That is a
it's the
good
county's.
idea, sir.
I have
If you can apply for it that way.
I have a quick question of the administration. Do we have any kind of fine? Do we fine these people for violating? What's that amount? Remind me.
100.
I think it's 500, and they're closed for 24 hours.
Yes, I believe, I just don't know if the states, if the state of Florida or the governor's order that has prevented us from collecting on the fines,
That's what I'm asking.
But yes.
I mean, is there any teeth to this at all?
we can issue the fine, we can't collect on the fine.
Okay. We can, we will, almost.
Is there a warning? I'm sorry, quick,
Go ahead.
2 minutes.
Of course.
Is there a warning before the fine?
No.
Is it an immediate fine?
No, I believe we stopped doing warnings.
So there's an immediate fine that we can't collect?
I believe it's an immediate, it would be an immediate fine
That
now
we do not collect.
that we
Later.
can't actually collect on.
Mr. Mayor, I have heard of cases, it all depends on the officer. Because I have heard of instances that an officer walk in and said, listen, get everybody to wear the mask. I am not going to fine you, but if I come back and I see anybody, I will give you $500. It all depends. It is the officer that walks in, the one that has the final decision.
Well, that brings me to my final question. Has there been a change to the policy? Because I've been working with a lot of businesses who are trying to comply. Some are being successful, some are not. Ironically, some of the worst offenders are before midnight.
Yes.
My recommendation to them was to actually hire more off-duty, where our officers could be on site and be a little stronger presence, and they could actually have a directive to be constantly correcting people who are acting inappropriately and actually helping staff remember to do what they're supposed to do. Has there been a directive to change that off-duty cannot be hired by bars and restaurants right now?
Not that I'm aware of, sir, and you asked about whether there's been a change in policy on the enforcement. We've just been more aggressively enforcing over the last couple of weeks as a result of the positivity rates that have started to go up. So we've been out there more often. I know that I'm part of a recovery group that includes members of the Wynwood bid and the Coconut Grove bid, and they themselves were asking us for assistance with some of the super spreader type events that were happening over the weekend in particular.
I've been informed that we did change our policy, and it's either more difficult or not possible. Actually, the chief is available on Zoom. Can we, because he's aware of this policy.
We're going to miss the tree lighting.
I know we are, but I really want our police to be able to help enforce this, because if they don't,
Well, but
nobody will.
Yeah, but let's make sure they're going to enforce it.
That's right.
Because the videos that were shown on TV in some establishments, they were not enforcing them. On the contrary, they were just leading more and more people in.
Chief, had you heard the question? Your recommendation.
I did. I heard the question. There was several questions that were asked. So just quickly, we use the civil citation program to do enforcement as it pertains to COVID violations. I did suspend off-duty work at all restaurants, lounges, and bars because there was officers that were stationed at some of these establishments where enforcement was not happening. And so I suspended all those jobs until we were able to put something together that went point by point, explaining what the expectation was at these locations. It isn't just that you prevent fights, robberies, break-ins, etc. No, every law, including emergency order, applies. And so we put a training component, we put a video together, we send it out to the officers. Once the officers see this and understand what the expectation is, and if they don't meet that expectation, they'll be disciplined for neglect of duty, I will allow them to start working again. But I'm not going to allow them unless they're told specifically what the expectation is. And by the way, the establishment hiring them also needs to acknowledge that because they hire them doesn't mean they have any authority whatsoever on how they enforce the law and what laws they enforce.
Thank you, Chief. I hope that you would consider giving them very specific directive to enforce COVID-related issues and start working again, because I believe they have a stronger voice than the private security, and it can actually help them from getting shut down and actually help reduce the spread. But that's all in your hands. So I thank you very much for the update, Chief.
No, and the point that what we'd like to do is, and we're trying to roll this out as quickly as we can, obviously, but I don't want someone to be able to claim that this is completely unique to them and the rules have changed many times and they don't understand. And so I'm hoping that we'll be through this training period by the end of the week, and I'll be able to allow them to go back out when the weekend comes so they can do exactly that. But they need to know what the enforcement is. And again, the idea is to be able to keep these businesses open and not have to shut them down, because we've had to shut down quite a few because they're not following any of the guidelines.
Thank you very much, Chief. Is there any further discussion on the item?
No, thank you, Chief.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes as amended. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas, everyone. The tree is about to be lit in 30 seconds.
Hallelujah.
And Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Please be safe,
Yes,
and
sir.
all the best to your families and all the employees. Take care, everyone. We are adjourned.